There's a fair number of odd people come in that
Okay.
needs to be clarified.
Well, people can see who comes in, Angus, though, when you make
Okay.
your entrance.
Yeah, but not
Oh,
everybody
it's just not
changes
live
their
and we're
name.
streaming on YouTube now.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, Angus,
Gotcha.
if you wouldn't mind doing it, but I deliberately gave you Joan of Gaunt because you're 5 hours ahead of us, and if you
I know
wanna
I'm gonna disappear
go
once
to
I'm
bed.
once.
All right, well, I'll take over some stage directions then.
Yeah.
Okay, the ones I think are necessary.
Yeah.
Does everybody think that's okay?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So should we introduce? It's recording.
I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
we're
not
recording. We need
No?
to start recording. We're live streaming, but we need to start recording. Okay, so now it's recording and live streaming.
Being recorded.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm Paul Sugarman in the Dark in the Instant Shakespeare Company, and tonight we're having Richard II, and so I turn it over to I'm still delivering mail, so I got to get out of here. So over to Virginia Hammer, the playmaster.
Okay, the Mistress. This is a wonderful play, and we don't have anyone of color in this cast, but you know, I tried. We will in the future. So anyway, why don't we introduce ourselves? I'm Virginia Hammer, and I'm just going to be doing the small role of Duchess of Gloucester, Act 1, Scene 2. I'll just go by everyone I see here. Well, let's start with the king, Clinton Powell.
Hello, I'm Clinton Powell, reading King Richard II.
All right, and his arch nemesis, Andrew. Please.
I'm Tony Scheinman, and I'm playing the part of the Earl of Northumberland.
All right, and Andrew, please.
I'm Andrew Parks, and I'm playing the part of Henry Bolingbroke.
Right, Richard and Henry. And this is all pretty true, by the way. I know he dramatized some like he does, but this is the end of the 1300s, right? The very end of the 1300s. Yes, right? Yes. Okay, Jackie, please.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Margolis, and I'm playing Duchess of York, Willoughby, somebody called Slope, and the second half.
Scroop.
Is it Sloop or Slope?
Scroop.
What?
It's pronounced Scroop.
Yeah.
Scroop. Okay. Oh, that's C. It looked like an L. Scroop.
Right.
Okay. I didn't have my glasses close enough. Scoop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's about it. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Angus, please.
Angus Hepburn from London,
Yay.
reading John of Gaunt.
Old John of Lancaster. Okay. Amelia, please.
Hi, I'm Amelia Bell, and I am reading The Queen, and then Berkeley, Salisbury, and Surrey.
Right, and also Lord in Act 4.
Yes.
No, wait. No.
Or no, you gave that to
Jennifer's
Jennifer.
playing Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, Act 4, Scene 1. Yes, and you know what, everybody? I mean, you probably already might know this, but the Queen in this play and also the evil Queen in Cymbeline, they are the only two characters, or at least the only two women, with no name. He didn't give them a name, just Queen. But we know from history that she is Queen Isabel. Okay, so Kevin, please.
Kevin reading Green and Hotspur.
All right, Kevin Quinn. And Yasha, please.
Yasha Bilan. I'm reading Edmund Langley, Duke of York, and Lady to the Queen.
Right, and Michael Gardner, please.
His microphone is not on.
Michael Gardner playing the Mowbray Duke of Norfolk, Bushy, and the gardener.
Yes, which is perfect casting. He's playing the gardener. And he is such a fine gardener. By the way, they just showed Being There with Peter Sellers on TCM. I don't know how many times I've seen it, but you can never see it enough times.
Oh, great movie.
Speaking of gardeners. And Jennifer, please.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Finger. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm reading Lord Ross and the Abbot of Westminster and some other parts.
Okay. Evan, please.
Hi, I'm Evan, he, him, or ze, sir, and I am playing the Duke of Omer.
Yes. And Mark, please.
Yes, I was just asking for a pronunciation cue. It's Omer. Okay. I'm Mark Gehring, hailing from Astoria, Queens, and I will be reading Lord Marshall, followed by both Bagot and Lord Fitzwater, who both accuse Lord Omer, and finally At the end of the play, I will be Sir Piers of Exton, who visits Richard in captivity in prison and kills him.
Ah, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, that's all right. But not once, but twice. Mark will be talking to his own self in the same scene twice.
Not exactly.
But he's good at that. So
No. It's not a big conflict like last week.
yeah, just wear a different hat or something. I don't know.
I got hats.
Yeah, right. So that's about everybody. I think that's.
It's actually interesting to note,
Yeah.
Virginia, that you commented that the Queen was called Queen rather than Isabella. That's a standard Shakespearean trick, because that tells you, because she's called Queen, that is the style of the character that is being portrayed at that time.
Yes.
If he called her by her name, she would be a different character.
Right, that is her function.
Yeah.
And her status. Okay, so and we Ken, please.
Excuse me. I'm a little bit sick again.
Oh,
Oh
Ken.
dear.
Kenneth Wayne.
Oh, Ken.
Keep drinking
Yeah.
lemon water.
Yeah.
And you are playing.
Oh, I will. Okay, thank you. I'm doing Kenneth Wayne. I'm the first herald, the Welsh captain, Bishop of Carlisle, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. Please remind me.
And the groom, I think you're the groom or the keeper. One of
Bishop
those.
of Carlisle. I mean, I could look it up, but then I'd have to go off.
I think you're the
somewhere
groom
else.
and Jennifer Finger's the keeper. Right?
Yeah, I'll look up. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
So everybody's great. And it is now 7. Ooh.
Whisper, yes, that's the groom. Groom,
Yeah, the groom,
yes.
you're the groom.
The groom is a part I like. I've done it before.
It's cool.
Yes.
The working class people in this play are just great. All right.
So
written with a lot
okay,
of.
thank you.
So without any further ado, everybody's ready to start, right?
Aye, Captain.
Yes.
Okay. So the history of Richard II. And everybody, please, go away with your video and mute when you're not in the scene. Okay.
Old John of Gaunt, time-honored Lancaster, hast thou, according to thy oath and band, brought hither Henry Hereford, thy bold son, here to make good ye boisterous late appeal, which then our leisure would not let us hear, against the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray.
I have, my liege.
Tell me, moreover, hast thou sounded him if he appeal the Duke on ancient malice, or worthily as a good subject should, on some known ground of treachery in him?
As near as I could sift him on that argument, on some apparent danger seen in him aimed at your highness. No inveterate malice.
Then call them to our presence face to face, and frowning brow to brow, ourselves will hear the accuser and the accused freely speak. High-stomached are they both, and full of ire, in rage, deaf as the sea, hasty as fire.
Many years of happy days befall my gracious sovereign, my most loving liege.
Each day still better others' happiness until the heavens envying earth's good hap add an immortal title to your crown.
We thank you both. Yet one but flatters us, as well appeareth by the cause you come, namely, to appeal each other of high treason. Cousin of Hereford, what dost thou object against the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray?
First, heaven be the record to my speech, and the devotion of a subject's love, tendering the precious safety of my prince, and free from other misbegotten hate, come I appellant to this princely presence. Now, Thomas Mowbray, do I turn to thee, and mark my greeting well. For what I speak, my body shall make good upon this earth, or my divine soul answer it in heaven. Thou art a traitor and a miscreant, too good to be so, and too bad to live. Since the more fair and crystal is the sky, the uglier seems the cloud that in it fly. Once more, the more to aggravate the note, with a foul traitor's name stuff I thy throat. And wish, so please my sovereign, ere I move, what my tongue speaks, my right drawn sword may prove.
Let not my cold words here accuse my zeal. 'Tis not the trial of a woman's war, the bitter clamor of two eager tongues can arbitrate this cause betwixt us twain. The blood is hot that must be cooled for this. Yet can I not of such time patience boast as to be hushed and naught as all to say, first, the fair reverence of your highness curbs me from giving reins and spurs to my free speech, which else would post until it had returned these terms of treason doubly down his throat. Setting aside his high blood's royalty, and let him be no kinsman to my liege, I do defy him and I spit on him, call him a slanderous coward and a villain, which to maintain I would allow him odds, and meet him were I tied to running afoot even to the frozen ridges of the Alps, or any other ground uninhabitable, wherever Englishmen durst set his foot. Meantime, let this defend my loyalty by all my hopes, most falsely doth he lie.
Pale, trembling coward, there I throw my gage, disclaiming here the kindred of a king, and lay aside my high blood's royalty, which fear, not reverence, makes thee to accept. If guilty dread hath left thee so much strength as to take up my honor's pawn, then stoop. By that, and all the rights of knighthood else will I make good against thee arm to arm, what I have spoken or thou canst devise.
I take it up, and by that sword I swear which gently laid my knighthood on my shoulder, I'll answer thee in any fair degree or chivalrous design of knightly trail. And when I mount alive, may I not light, if I be traitor or unjustly fight.
What doth our cousin lay to Mowbray's charge? It must be great that can inherit us so much as of a thought of ill in him.
Look what I said, my life shall prove it true. That Mowbray hath received 8,000 nobles in name of lendings for your highness soldiers, the which he hath detained for lewd employments like a false traitor and injurious villain. Besides, I say, and will in battle prove, or here or elsewhere to the furthest verge that ever was surveyed by English eye, that all the treasons for these 18 years complotted and contrived in this land fetched from false Mowbray their first head and spring. Further I say, and further will maintain upon this bad life to make all this good, that he did plot the Duke of Gloucester's death, suggesting his soon believing adversaries, and consequently, like a traitor coward, sluiced out his innocent soul through streams of blood, which blood, like sacrificing Abel's cries, even from the tongueless caverns of the earth to me for justice and rough chastisement. And by the glorious worth of my descent, this arm shall prove it, or this life be spent.
How high a pitch his resolution soars. Thomas of Norfolk, what sayest thou to this?
Oh, let my sovereign turn away his face and bid his ears a little while be deaf, till I have told this slander of his blood, how God and good men hate so foul a liar.
Mowbray, impartial are our ears, eyes and ears. Were he my brother, nay, our kingdom's heir, as he is but my father's brother's son, now by my scepter's awe I make a vow. Such neighbor nearness to our sacred blood should nothing privilege him, nor partialize the unstooping firmness of my upright soul. He is our subject, Mowbray, so art thou. Free speech and fearless I to thee allow.
Then, Bolingbroke, as low as to thy heart, Through the false passage of thy throat thou liest. 3 parts of that receipt I had for Calais dispersed I to his highness soldiers. The other parts reserved I by consent, for that my sovereign liege was in my debt upon remainder of a dear account, since last I went to France to fetch his queen. I hearing you. Somebody's talking. Please mute yourself. Upon remainder of a dear account, since I went to France to fetch his queen. Now swallow down that lie. For Gloucester's death, I slew him not, but to my own disgrace neglected my sworn duty in that case. For you, my noble lord of Lancaster, the honorable father to my foe, once I did lay in ambush for your life. A trespass that doth vex my grieved soul, but ere I last received the sacrament, I did confess it and exactly begged your grace's pardon, and I hope I had it. This is my fault. As for the rest appealed, it issues from the rancor of a villain, a recreant and most degenerate traitor, which in myself I boldly will defend, and interchangeably hurl down my gage upon this overweening traitor's foot, to prove myself a loyal gentleman, even in the best blood chambered in his bosom. In haste, whereof most heartily I pray your highness to assign our trial day.
Wrath-kindled gentlemen, be ruled by me. Let's purge this caller without letting blood. This we prescribe, though no physician, deep malice makes too deep incision. Forget, forgive, conclude, and be agreed. Our doctors say this is no time to bleed. Good uncle, let this end where it began. We'll calm the Duke of Norfolk, you, your son.
To be a makepeace shall become my age. Throw down, my son, the Duke of Norfolk's gage.
And Norfolk, throw down his.
When, Harry, when? Obedience bids, I should not bid again.
Norfolk, throw down, we bid. There is no boot.
Myself I throw, dread sovereign, at thy foot. My life thou shalt command, but not my shame. The one my duty owes, but my fair name, despite of death that lives upon my grave, to dark dishonors use, thou shalt not have. I am disgraced, impeached, and baffled here. Pierced to the soul with slander's venomed spear, the which no balm can cure, but his heart blood with breathe this poison.
Rage must be withstood. Give me his gage. Lions make leopards tame.
Yea, but not as change his spots. Take but my shame, and I resign my gage. My dear lord, the purest treasure mortal times afford is spotless reputation. That away, men are but gilded loam or painted clay. A jewel in a 10 times barred up chest is a bold spirit in a loyal breast. Mine honor is my life. Both grow in one. Take honor from me, and my life is done. The dear my lords, mine honor, let me try. In that I live, and for that will I die.
Cousin, throw down your gage. Do you begin?
Oh, heaven defend my soul from such foul sin. Shall I seem crestfallen in my father's sight, or with pale beggar fear impeach me, my height before this outdared dastard? Ere my tongue shall wound mine honor with such feeble wrong, or sound so base a parle, my teeth shall tear the slavish motive of recanting fear, and spit it bleeding in his high disgrace, where shame doth harbor even in Mowbray's face.
We were not born to sue, but to command, which, since we cannot do to make you friends, be ready, as your lives shall answer it. At Coventry, upon St. Lambert's Day, there shall your swords and lances arbitrate the swelling difference of your settled hate. Since we cannot atone you, you shall see justice design the victor's chivalry. Lord Marshal, command our officers at arms, be ready to direct these home alarms.
Alas, the part I had in Gloucester's blood doth more solicit me than your exclaims, to stir against the butchers of his life. But since correction lieth in those hands which made the fault that we cannot correct, put we our quarrel to the will of heaven, who, when they see the hours ripe upon earth, will rain hot vengeance on offenders' heads.
Finds brotherhood in thee no sharper spur? Hath love in thy old blood no living fire? Edward's 7 sons, whereof thyself art one, were as 7 vials of his sacred blood, or 7 fair branches springing from one root. Some of those 7 are dried by nature's course, some of those branches by the destinies cut. But Thomas, my dear lord, my life, my Gloucester, one vial full of Edward's sacred blood, one flourishing branch of his most royal root is cracked, and all the precious liquor spilt is hacked down, and his summer leaves all faded by envy's hand and murder's bloody axe. Oh, Gaunt, his blood was thine. That bed, that womb, that metal, that self-mold that fashioned thee made him a man. And though thou livest and breathest, yet art thou slain in him. Thou dost consent in some large measure to thy father's death, in that thou seest thy wretched brother die, who was the model of thy father's life. Call it not patience, Gaunt. It is despair, in suffering thus thy brother to be slaughtered. Thou showest the naked pathway to thy life, teaching stern murder how to butcher thee. That which in mean men we entitle patience is pale, cold cowardice in noble breasts. What shall I say to safeguard thine own life? The best way is to venge my Gloucester's death.
Heaven's is the quarrel. For heaven's substitute, his deputy anointed in his sight, hath caused his death, the which, if wrongfully, let heaven revenge. For I may never lift an angry nay arm against his minister.
Where then, alas, may I complaint myself?
Oh, to heaven, the widow's champion to defence.
Why, then, I will. Farewell, old Gaunt. Thou goest to Coventry, there to behold our cousin Hereford and fell Mowbray fight. Oh, sit my husband's wrongs on Hereford's spear, that if may enter butcher Mowbray's breast. Or if misfortune miss the first career, be Mowbray's sin so heavy in his bosom that they may break his foaming courser's back and throw the rider headlong in the lists, a caitiff recreant to my cousin Hereford. Farewell, old Gaunt, thy sometimes brother's wife, with her companion grief, must end her life.
Sister, farewell. I must to Coventry. As much good stay with thee as go with me.
Yet one word more. Grief boundeth where it falls, not with the empty hollowness, but Wait. I take my leave before I have begun, for sorrow ends not when it seemeth done. Commend me to my brother Edmund York. Lo, this is all. Nay, yet depart not so. Though this be all, do not so quickly go. I shall remember more. Bid him, oh, what? With all good speed at Plashy visit me. Alack, and what shall good old York there see but empty lodgings and unfurnished walls, unpeopled offices, untrodden stones, and what here there for welcome but my groans? Therefore commend me, let him come not there to seek out sorrow that dwells everywhere. Desolate, desolate will I hence and die. The last leave of thee takes my weeping eye.
My lord Omer, is Harry Hereford armed?
Yea, at all points and longs to enter in.
The Duke of Norfolk, sprightly and bold, stays but the summons of the appellant's trumpet.
Why then the champions are prepared and stay for nothing but his majesty's approach.
Marshal, demand of yonder champion the cause of his arrival here in arms. Ask him his name and orderly proceed to swear him in the justice of his cause.
In God's name and the king's, say who thou art, and why thou comest, thou knightly clad in arms, against what man thou comest, and what's thy quarrel? Speak truly on thy knighthood and thine oath, and so defend thee heaven and thy valor.
My name is Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, who hither comes engaged by my oath, which heaven defend, a knight should violate, both to defend my loyalty and truth to God, my king, and his succeeding issue against the Duke of Hereford that appeals me, and by the grace of God and this mine arm to prove him, in defending of myself, a traitor to my God, my king, and me. And as I truly fight, defend me heaven.
Marshal, ask yonder knight in arms both who he is and why he cometh hither, thus placed in habiliments of war, and formally, according to our law, depose him in the justice of his cause.
What is thy name, and wherefore comest he hither before King Richard in his royal lists? Against whom comest thou, and what's thy quarrel? Speak like a true knight, so defend thee heaven.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby am I, who ready here do stand in arms to prove by heaven's grace and my body's valor in lists on Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, that he's a traitor foul and dangerous to God of heaven, King Richard, and to me. And as I truly fight, defend me heaven.
On pain of death, no person be so bold or daring hearty as to touch the lists, except the marshal and such officers appointed to direct these fair designs.
Lord Marshal, let me kiss my sovereign's hand and bow my knee before his majesty. For Mowbray and myself are like two men that vow a long and weary pilgrimage. Then let us take a ceremonious leave and loving farewell of our several friends.
The appellant, in all duty greets your highness and craves to kiss your hand and take his leave.
We will descend and fold him in our arms. Cousin of Hereford, as thy cause is just, so be thy fortune in this royal fight. Farewell, my blood, which if today thou shed, lament we may, but not revenge the dead.
Oh, let no eye profane a tear for me if I be gored with Mowbray's spear. As confident as is the falcon's flight against a bird, do I with Mowbray fight. My loving lord, I take my leave of you. Of you, my noble cousin, Lord Emerl, not sick, although I have to do with death, but lusty, young, and cheerly drawing breath. Lo, as at English feasts, so I regreet the daintiest last, to make the end most sweet. O thou, the earthy author of my blood, whose youthful spirit in me regenerate, doth with a twofold rigor lift me up to reach at victory above my head. Add proof unto mine armor with thy prayers, and with thy blessing steel my lance's point, that it may enter Mowbray's waxen coat, and furnish new the name of John a Gaunt, even in the lusty haviour of his son.
Heaven, in thy good cause, make thee prosperous.
Is that me? I'm sorry.
No, it's John of Gaunt. Angus,
I can't hear you.
muted. You're muted, Angus.
Heaven, in thy good cause make thee prosperous. Be swift like lightning in the execution, and let thy blows doubly redoubled fall like amazing thunder on the casque of thy amazed pernicious enemy. Rouse up thy lawful blood, be valiant, and live.
Mine innocence, and St. George to thrive.
However heaven or fortune cast my lot, there lives or dies true to King Richard's throne a loyal, just, and upright gentleman. Never did captive with a freer heart cast off his chains of bondage and embrace his golden uncontrolled enfranchisement more than my dancing soul doth celebrate this feast of battle with my adversary. Most mighty liege, and my companion peers, take from my mouth the wish of happy years. As gentle and as jocund as to jest, go I to fight. Truth hath a quiet breast.
Farewell, my lord, securely I espy virtue with valor couched in thine eye. Order the trial, marshal, and begin.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby, receive thy lance, and heaven defend thy right.
Strong as a tower in hope, I cry amen.
Go, bear this lance to Thomas, Duke of Norfolk.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby, stand here for God, his sovereign and himself. On name to be found false and recreant, to prove the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray, a traitor to his God, his king, him, and dares him to set forward to the fight.
Here standeth, though Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, on pain to be found false and recreant, both to defend himself and to approve Henry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby, to God his sovereign, and to him disloyal, courageously, with a free desire, attending but the signal to begin.
Sound trumpets and set forward combatants. Stay! The king hath thrown his warder down.
Let them lay by their helmets and their spears, and both return back to their chairs again. Withdraw with us, and let the trumpets sound while we return these dukes what we decree. Draw near and list.
Trumpet flourish. Sorry.
draw near and list what with our counsel we have done, for that our kingdom's earth should not be soiled with that dear blood which it hath fostered, and for our eyes do hate the dire aspect of civil wounds plowed up with neighbors' swords, which so roused up with boisterous untuned drums, with harsh resounding trumpets' dreadful bray, and grating shock of wrathful iron arms, might from our quiet confines fright fair peace, and make us wade even in our kindred's blood. Therefore, we banish you our territories, you, cousin Hereford, upon pain of death, till twice 5 summers have enriched our fields, shall not regreet our fair dominions, but tread the stranger paths of banishment.
Your will be done. This must my comfort be. That sun that warms you here shall shine on me, and those his golden beams to you here lent shall point on me and gild my banishment.
Norfolk, for thee remains a heavier doom, which I with some unwillingness pronounce. The sly, slow hours shall not determinate the dateless limit of thy dear exile. The hopeless word of never to return breathe I against thee upon pain of death. Life.
A heavy sentence, my most sovereign liege, and all unlooked for from your highness' mouth. A dearer merit, not so deep a maim as to be cast forth in the common air, have I deserved at your highness' hands. The language I have learned these 40 years, my native English, now I must forego, and now my tongue's used is to me no more than an unstringed viol or a harp, or like a cunning instrument cased up of being open, put into his hands that knows no touch to tune the harmony. Within my mouth you have beguiled my tongue, doubly perculous with my teeth and lips, and dull unfeeling barren ignorance has made my jailer to attend on me. I am too old to fawn upon a nurse, too far in years to be a pupil now. What is thy sentence then but speechless death, which robs my tongue from breathing native breath?
It boots thee not to be compassionate. After our sentence, plaining comes too late.
Then thus I turn me from my country's light to dwell in solemn shades of endless night.
Return again and take an oath with thee. Lay on our royal sword your banished hands. Swear by the duty that you owe to heaven, our part therein we banish with yourselves. To keep the oath that we administer, you never shall, so help your truth and heaven, embrace each other's love in banishment, nor ever look upon each other's face, nor ever write, regreet, or reconcile this lowering tempest of your homebred hate, nor ever be advised, purpose, meet to plot, contrive, or complot any ill against us, our state, our subjects, or our land.
I swear.
And I, to keep all this.
Norfolk, so far as to mine enemy, by this time had the king permitted us, one of our souls had wandered in the air, banished this frail sepulchre of our flesh, as now our flesh is banished from this land. Confess thy treasons. Ere thou fly this realm, since thou hast far to go, bear not along the clogging burthen of a guilty soul.
No, Bolingbroke. If ever I were traitor, my name be blotted from the book of life, and I from heavens banished as from hence. But what thou art, heaven, thou and I do know, and all too soon I fear the king shall rule. Farewell, my liege. Now no way can I stray, save back to England. All the world's my way.
Uncle, Even in the glasses of thine eyes I see thy grieved heart, thy sad aspect hath from the number of his banished years plucked 4 away. 6 frozen winters spent, return with welcome home from banishment.
How long a time lies in one little word. 4 lagging winters and 4 wanton springs end in a word. Such is the breath of kings.
I thank my liege that in regard of me he shortens 4 years of my son's exile. But little vantage shall I reap thereby. For ere the 6 years that he hath to spend can change their moons and bring their times about, my oil-dried lamp and time-bewasted light shall be extinct with age, and endless night my inch of taper will be burnt and done, and blindfold death not let me see my son.
Why, uncle, thou hast many years to live.
But not a minute, king, that thou canst give. Shorten my days thou canst with sudden sorrow, and pluck my nights from me, not lend a morrow. Thou canst help time to furrow me with age, but stop no wrinkle in his pilgrimage. Thy word is current with him for my death, but dead, thy kingdom cannot buy my breath.
Thy son is banished upon good advice, whereto thy tongue a party verdict gave. Why, at our justice seemst thou then to lour?
Sweet things sweet to taste, prove indigestion sour. You urged me as a judge, but I had rather you would have bid me argue like a father. Alas, I looked when some of you should say I was too strict to make mine own away, but you gave leave to my unwilling tongue against my will to do myself this wrong.
Cousin, farewell, and uncle bid him so. 6 years we banish him, and he shall go.
Cousin, farewell. What presence must not know from where you do remain, let paper show.
My lord, no leave take I, but I will ride as far as land will let me by your side.
Oh, to what purpose dost thou hoard thy words, that thou return'st no greeting to thy friends?
I have too few to take my leave of you, where the tongue's office should be prodigal, to breathe the abundant dolour of the heart.
Thy grief is but thy absence for a time.
Joy absent, grief is present for that time.
But his 6 winters, they are quickly gone.
To men in joy, but grief makes 1 hour 10.
Call it a travail that thou takest for pleasure.
My heart will sigh when I miscall it so, which finds it an enforced pilgrimage.
The sullen passage of thy weary steps esteem a soil, wherein thou art to set the precious jewel of thy home return.
Oh, who can hold a fire in his hand by thinking on the frosty Caucasus, or cloy the hungry edge of appetite by bare imagination of a feast, or wallow naked in December snow by thinking on fantastic summer's heat? Oh no, the apprehension of the good gives but the greater feeling to the worse. Fell sorrow's tooth doth ever rankle more than when it bites, but lanceth not the sore.
Come, come, my son, I'll bring thee on thy way. Had I thy youth and cause, I would not stay.
Then England's ground farewell, seat soil adieu. My mother and my nurse which bears me yet. Where'er I wander, boast of this I can, though banished, yet a true-born Englishman.
We did observe, cousin Emerl, how far brought you High Hereford on his way.
I brought High Hereford, if you call him so, but to the next highway, and there I left him.
And say what store of parting tears were shed.
Faith, none for me, except the northeast wind, which then grew bitterly against our face, awake the sleepy room, and so by chance did grace our hollow parting with a tear.
What said our cousin when you parted with him?
Farewell, and for my heart disdained in my tongue, I should so profane the wind that taught me craft to counterfeit oppression of such grief that would seem buried in my sorrow's grave. Marry, would the word farewell have lengthened hours and added years to his short banishment, he should have had a volume of farewells, but since it would not, he had none of me.
He is our cousin, but 'tisn't doubt when time shall call him home from banishment, whether our kinsmen come to see his friends. Ourself and Bushy, here Bagot and Green, observed his courtship to the common people, how he did seem to dive into their hearts with humble and familiar courtesies, what reverence he did throw away on slaves, wooing poor craftsmen with the crafts of souls, and patient underbearing of his fortune, as 'twere to banish their effects with him. Off goes his bonnet to an oyster wench, a brace of draymen bid good speed him well, and had the tribute of his supple knee, with thanks. My countrymen, my loving friends, as were our England in reversion his, and he our subjects' next degree in hope.
Well, he is gone, and with him go these thoughts. Now for the rebels which stand out in Ireland. Expedient manage must be made, my liege, ere further leisure yield them further means for their advantage and your highness' loss.
We will ourself in person to this war, and for our coffers, with too great a court and liberal largesse, are grown somewhat light. We are enforced to farm our royal realm, the revenue whereof shall furnish us for our affairs in hand. If that come short, our substitutes at home shall have blank charters, whereto, when they shall know what men are rich, they shall subscribe them for large sums of gold, and send them after to supply our wants. For we will make for Ireland presently. Bushy, what news?
Old John of Gaunt is very sick, my lord, suddenly taken, and hath sent post-haste to entreat your majesty to visit him.
Where lies he?
At Ely House.
Now put it, heaven, in his physician's mind to help him to his grave immediately. The lining of his coffer shall make coats to deck our soldiers for this Irish wars. Come, gentlemen, let's all go visit him. Pray heaven we may make haste and come too late.
Act 2, Scene 1.
Will the king come that I may breathe my last in wholesome counsel to his unstayed youth?
Vex not yourself, nor strive not with your breath, for all in vain comes counsel to his care.
Oh, but they say the tongues of dying men enforce attention like deep harmony. But words are scarce, they are seldom spent in vain, for they breathe truth that breathe their words in pain. He that hath no more must say is licensed, listen more than they whom youth and ease have taught to glose. More are men's ends marked than their lives before. The setting sun and music and the close, as at the taste of sweets in sweetest last, writ in remembrance more than things long past. Though Richard my life's counsel would not hear, my death's sad tale may yet undeaf his ear.
No, it is stopped with other flattering sounds as praises of his state. Then there are found lascivious meters to whose venom sound the open ear of youth doth always listen. Report of fashions in proud Italy, whose manners still our tardy apish nation limps after in base imitation, where doth the world thrust forth a vanity? So it be new. There's no respect how vile, that it's not quickly buzzed into his ears, that all too late comes counsel to be heard, where will doth mutiny with wit's regard. Direct not him whose way himself will choose. 'Tis breath thou lackst, and that breath will thou lose.
Methinks I am a prophet new inspired, and thus expiring do foretell of him. His rash fiat blaze of Reut cannot last, for violent fires soon burn out themselves. Small showers last long, but sudden storms are short. He tires betimes, that spurs too fast betimes. With eager feeding, food doth choke the feeder. Light vanity, insatiate cormorant, consuming means, soon preys upon itself. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortune built by nature for it herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall, or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this steaming womb of royal kings, feared by their breed and famous for their birth, renowned for their deeds, as far from home for Christian service and from true chivalry as is the sepulchre in stubborn jury of the world's ransom, blessed Mary's sons. This land of such dear souls, this dear, dear land, dear for her reputation through the world, is now leased out. I die pronouncing it, like to a tenement or pelting farm. England bound in with the triumphant sea, whose rocky shore beats back the envious siege of watery Neptune, is now bound in with shame, with inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. That England that was wont to conquer others had made a shameful conquest of itself. Oh, would the scandal vanish with my life? How happy then would my be ensuing death.
The king is come, deal mildly with his youth, for young hot colts being raged, do rage the more.
How fares our noble Uncle Lancaster?
What comfort, man. How is't with aged Gaunt?
Oh, how that name befits my composition, old Gaunt indeed, and Gaunt in being old. Within me grief hath kept a tedious fast, and who abstains from meat that is not gaunt? For sleeping England long time have I watched. Watching breeds leanness. Leanness is all gaunt. The pleasure that some fathers feed upon is my strict fast. I mean my children's looks, and therein fasting hast thou made me gaunt. Gaunt am I for the grave, gaunt as a grave whose hollow womb inherits naught but bones.
Can sick men play so nicely with their names?
No, misery makes sport, so mock itself. Since thou dost seek to kill my name in me, I mock my name, great king, to flatter thee.
Should dying men flatter those that live?
No, no. Men living flatter those that die.
Thou, now a dying, sayest thou flatterest me.
Oh, no. Thou diest, though I the sicker be.
I am in health. I breathe. I see thee ill.
Now, he that made me knows I see thee ill. Ill in myself to see, and in thee seeing ill, thy deathbed is no lesser than the land, wherein thou liest in reputation sick. And thou, careless, patient as thou art, commendest thou thy anointed body to the cure of those physicians that first wounded thee. 1,000 flatterers sit within thy crown, whose compass is no bigger than thy head, and yet encaged in so small a verge, the waste is no whit lesser than thy land. Oh, had thy grandsire with a prophet's eye seen how his son's son should destroy his sons, from who forth thy reach he would have laid thy shame, deposing thee before thou wert possessed, which art possessed now to dispose thyself. My cousin, were thou regent of the world, it were a shame to lend his hand by lease, but for thy world, enjoying but this land, is not more than shame to shame it so? Landlord of England art thou, and not king. Thy state of law is bond-slave to the law. And
thou, a lunatic lean-witted fool, presuming on an ague's privilege, darest with thy frozen admonition make pale our cheek, chasing the royal blood with fury from his native residence. Now by my seats, right royal majesty, wert thou not brother to great Edward's son, this tongue that runs so roundly in thy head should run thy head from thy unreverent shoulders.
Oh, spare me not, my brother's Edward's son, for that I was his father, Edward's son. That blood already, like the pelican, thou hast tapped out and drunkenly caroused. My brother Gloucester, plain, well-meaning soul, whose fair befall in heavens mongst happy souls, may be a precedent and witness good that thou respects not spilling Edward's blood. Join with the present sickness that I have, and thy unkindness be like crooked age to crop a once too long withered flower. Live in thy shame, but die not shame with thee. These words hereafter thy tormentors be. Convey me to my bed, then to my grave. Love they to live, that love and honor have.
And let them die that age and sullens have, for both hast thou, and both become the grave.
I do beseech your majesty impute his words to wayward sickliness and age in him. He loves you on my life and holds you dear as Harry Duke of Hereford were he here.
Right, you say true. As Hereford's love, so his, as theirs, so mine, and all be as it is.
My liege, old Gaunt commends him to your majesty.
Oh, what says he?
Nay, nothing. All is said. His tongue is now a stringless instrument. Words, life, and all, old Lancaster hath spent.
Be York the next, that must be bankrupt so. Though death be poor, it ends a moral woe.
The ripest fruit first falls, and so doth he. His time is spent. Our pilgrimage must be so much for that. Now for our Irish wars. We must supplant those rough, rug-headed kerns, which live like venom, where no venom else, but only they have privilege to live. And for these great affairs do ask some charge toward our assistance. We do seize to us the plate, coin, revenues, and movables, whereof our Lord Gaunt did stand possessed.
How long shall I be patient? Oh, how long shall tender duty make me suffer wrong? Not Gloucester's death, nor Hefford's banishment, nor Gaunt's rebukes, nor England's private wrongs, nor the prevention of poor Bolingbroke about his marriage, nor my own disgrace have ever made me sour my patient cheek or bend one wrinkle on my sovereign's face. I am the last of noble Edward's sons, of whom thy father, Prince of Wales, was first. In war was never lion raged more fierce. In peace was never gentle lamb more mild than was that young and princely gentleman. His face thou hast, for even so looked he accomplished with the number of thy hours. But when he frowned, it was against the French, and not against his friends. His noble hand did win what he did spend, and spent not that which his triumphant father's hand had won. His hands were guilty of no kindred's blood, but bloody with the enemies of his kin. Oh, Richard, York is too far gone with grief, or else he never would compare between.
Why, uncle, what's the matter?
Oh, my liege, pardon me if you please. If not, I please not to be pardoned, am content with all. Seek you to seize and gripe into your hands the royalties and rights of banished Hefford? Is not Gaunt dead? And doth not Hefford live? Was not Gaunt just, and is not Harry true? Did not the one deserve to have an heir? Is not his heir a well-deserving son? Take Hefford's rights away, and take from time his charters and his customary rights. Let not tomorrow then ensue today. Be not thyself. For how art thou a king, but by fair sequence and succession? Now afore God, God forbid I say true, if you do wrongfully seize Hefford's right, call in his letters patents that he hath by his attorneys general to sue his livery and deny his offered homage, you pluck 1,000 dangers on your head, you loose 1,000 well-disposed hearts, and prick my tender patience to those thoughts which honor and allegiance cannot think.
Think what you will. We seize into our hands his plate, his goods, his money, and his lands.
I'll not be by the while. My liege, farewell. What will ensue hereof, there's none can tell. But by bad courses may be understood that their events can never fall out good.
Go, Bushy, to the Earl of Wiltshire straight, bid him repair to us to Ely House to see this business. Tomorrow next we will for Ireland, and 'tis time, I trow, and we create an absence of ourself. Our Uncle York, Lord Governor of England, for he is just and always loved us well. Come on, our queen, tomorrow must we part. Be merry, for our time of stay is short.
Well, lords, the Duke of Lancaster is dead.
And living too, for now his son is Duke.
Barely in title, not in revenue.
Richly in both, if justice had her right.
My heart is great, but it must break with silence, or be disburdened with a liberal tongue.
Nay, speak thy mind, and let him ne'er speak more that speaks thy words again to do thee harm.
Tends that thou speakest to the Duke of Hereford. If it be so, out with it boldly, man. Quick is mine ear to hear of good rewards toward him.
No good at all that I can do for him, unless you call it good to pity him, bereft and gelded of his patrimony.
Now afore heaven, 'tis shame such wrongs are born. In him a royal prince, and many more of noble blood in this declining land. The king is not himself, but basely led by flatterers, and what they will inform merely in hate against any of us all, that will the king severely prosecute against us, our lives, our children, and our heirs.
The commons hath he piled with grievous taxes, and quite lost their hearts. The nobles hath he fined with ancient quarrels, and quite lost their hearts.
And daily new exactions are devised, as blanks, benevolences, and I wot not what. But what in God's name doth become of this?
Wars hath not wasted it, for wars he hath not, but basely yielded upon compromise. That which his ancestors achieved with blows, more hath he spent in peace than they in wars.
The Earl of Wiltshire hath the realm and farm.
The king's grown bankrupt like a broken man.
Reproach and dissolution hangeth over him.
He hath not money for these Irish wars, burdenous taxations notwithstanding, but by the robbing of the banished duke.
His noble kinsman, most degenerate king. But lords, we hear this fearful tempest sing, yet seek no shelter to avoid the storm. We see the wind sit sore upon our sails, and yet we strike not, but securely perish.
We see the very wrack that we must suffer, and unavoided is the danger now, for suffering so the causes of our wrack.
Not so. Even through the hollow eyes of death, I spy life peering. But I dare not say how near the tidings of our comfort is.
Nay, let us share thy thoughts as thou dost ours.
Be confident to speak, Northumberland. We three are but thyself, and speaking so, thy words are but as thoughts. Therefore, be bold.
Then thus, I have from Port Le Blanc, a bay in Bretagne, received intelligence that Harry, Duke of Hereford, Reynold, Lord Cobham, that late broke from the Duke of Exeter, his brother Archbishop late of Canterbury, Sir Thomas Erpingham, Sir John Rainston, Sir John Norbury, and Sir John Watarian, and Francis Quoint, all these well furnished by the Duke of Bretagne, with 8 tall ships, 3,000 men of war, are making hither with all due expedience, and shortly mean to touch our northern shore. Perhaps they had ere this, but that they stay the first departing of the king for Ireland. If then we shall shake off our slavish yoke, imp out our drooping country's broken wing, redeem from broken pawn the blemished crown, wipe off the dust that hides our scepter's guilt, and make high majesty look like itself. Away with me in post to Ravenspur. But if you faint as fearing to do so, stay and be secret, and myself will go.
Oh, to horse, to horse.
To horse, urge doubts to them that fear.
Oh, hold out my horse, and I will first be there.
Everybody, I should have said this in the beginning, sorry. I think it's smart to take a break, like 5 minutes, between Act 3, Scene 3 and Act 3, Scene 4. That's right before page 82, the scene with the Queen. Okay, so we're going to keep going until page 82. Okay, so act 2, Scene 2.
Madam, your majesty is too much sad. You promised when you parted with the king to lay aside self-harming heaviness and entertain a cheerful disposition.
To please the king I did, to please myself I cannot do it. Yet I know no cause why I should welcome such a guest as grief, save bidding farewell to so sweet a guest as my sweet Richard. Yet again, methinks, some unborn sorrow, ripe in fortune's womb, is coming towards me, and my inward soul with nothing trembles, at something it grieves, more than with parting from my lord the king.
Each substance of a grief hath 20 shadows, which shows like grief itself, but it is not so. For sorrow's eye, glazed with blinding tears, divides one thing entire to make many objects, like perspectives, which, rightly gazed upon, show nothing but confusion. Eye to eye, distinguish form. So your sweet majesty, looking awry upon your lord's departure, finds shapes of grief more than himself to wail, which looked on as it is naught but shadows of what it is not. Then thrice gracious queen, more than your lord's departure, weep not. More's not seen. Or if it be, 'tis with false sorrow's eye, which for things true weeps things imaginary.
It may be so, but yet my inward soul persuades me it is otherwise. Howe'er it be, I cannot but be sad, so heavy sad, as though on thinking on no thought I think, makes me with heavy nothing faint and shrink.
'Tis nothing but conceit, my gracious lady.
'Tis nothing less. Conceit is still derived from some forefather grief. Mine is not so. For nothing hath begot my something grief, or something hath the nothing that I grieve. 'Tis in reversion that I do possess. But what it is, that is not yet known. What I cannot name, 'tis nameless woe, I wot.
Heaven save your majesty, and well met, gentlemen. I hope the king is not yet shipped for Ireland.
Why hopest thou so? 'Tis better hope he is. For his designs crave hast, his hast good hope. Then wherefore dost thou hope he is not shipped?
That he, our hope, might have retired his power and driven into despair an enemy's hope, who strongly hath set footing in this land. The banished Bolingbroke repeals himself, and with uplifted armies is safe arrived at Ravenspur.
Now God in heaven forbid.
O madam, 'tis too true, and that is worse. The Lord Northumberland, his young son, Henry Percy, the lords of Ross, Beaumont, and Willoughby, with all their powerful friends, are fled to him.
Why have you not proclaimed Northumberland and the rest of the revolted faction traitors?
We have, whereupon the Earl of Worcester hath broke his staff, resigned his stewardship, and all the household servants fled with him to Bolingbroke.
O green, thou art the midwife of my foe, and Bolingbroke my sorrow's dismal heir. Now hath my soul brought forth her prodigy, and I, a gasping new delivered mother, have woe to woe, sorrow to sorrow joined.
Despair not, madam.
Who shall hinder me? I will despair and be at enmity with cousining Hope. He is a flatterer, a parasite, a keeper back of death, who gently would dissolve the bands of life which false hopes linger in extremity.
Here comes the Duke of York,
with signs of war about his aged neck. Oh, full of careful business are his looks. Uncle, for heaven's sake, speak comfortable words.
Comfort's in heaven. And we are on the earth where nothing lives but crosses, care, and grief. Your husband he is gone to save far off, whilst others come to make him loose at home. Here am I left to underprop his land, who weak with age cannot support myself. Now comes the sick hour that his surfeit made. Now shall he try his friends that flattered him.
My lord, your son was gone before I came.
He was. Why so? Go all which way it will. The nobles, they are fled. The commons, they are cold. And will I fear revolt on Hereford's side? Sarah, get thee to Plashy, to my sister Gloucester. Bid her send me presently £1,000. Hold, take my ring.
My lord, I had forgot to tell your lordship. Today I came by and called there, but I shall grieve you to report the rest.
What is it, knave?
An hour before I came, the Duchess died.
Heaven for his mercy! What a tide of woes come rushing on this woeful land at once! I know not what to do. I would to heaven some my untruth had not provoked him to it. The king had cut off my head with my brothers. What, are there posts dispatched for Ireland? How shall we do for money for these wars? Come, sister, cousin, I would pray, Pray pardon me. Go, fellow, get thee home. Provide some carts and bring away the armor that is there. Gentlemen, will you muster men? If I know how or which way to order these affairs, thus disorderly thrust into my hands, never believe me. Both are my kinsmen. The one is my sovereign, whom both my oath and duty bids defend. The other again is my kinsman, whom the king hath wronged, whom conscience and my kindred bids to right. Well, somewhat we must do. Come, cousin, I'll dispose of you. Gentlemen, go muster up your men, and meet me presently at Berkeley Castle. I should to Plashy too, but time will not permit. All is uneven, and everything is left at 6 and 7.
The wind sits fair for news to go to Ireland, but none returns. For us to levy power proportionable to thy enemy is all impossible.
Besides, our nearness to the king in love is near the hate of those loved not the king.
And that's the wavering commons, for their love lies in their purses, and whoso empties them by so much fills their hearts with deadly hate.
Wherein the king stands generally condemned.
If judgment lie in them, then so do we, because we have been ever near the king.
Well, I for refuge straight to Bristol Castle. The Earl of Wiltshire is already there.
Thither will I with you. For little office will the hateful commons perform for us, except like curs to tear us all to pieces. Will you go along with us?
No, I will to Ireland, to his majesty. Farewell, if heart's presages be not vain. We three here part that never shall meet again.
That says York thrives to beat back Bolingbroke.
Alas, poor Duke. The task he undertakes is numbering sands and drinking oceans dry. Where one on his side fights, thousands will fly.
Farewell at once, for all, and ever well we may meet again.
I fear me never.
Act 2, Scene 3.
How far is it, my lord of Berkeley, now?
Believe me, noble lord, I'm a stranger here in Gloucestershire. These high, wild hills and rough, uneven ways draws out our miles and makes them wearisome. And yet our fair discourse hath been as sugar, making the hard way sweet and delectable. But I bethink me, what a weary way from Ravenspur to Cotswold will be found, in Ross and Willoughby, wanting your company, which I protest hath very much beguiled the tediousness and process of my travel. But theirs is sweetened with the hope to have the present benefit that I possess, and hope to joy in is little less in joy than hope enjoyed. By this the weary lords shall make their way seem short, as mine hath done, and by sight of what I have, your noble company.
Of much less value is my company than your good words. But who comes here?
It is my son, young Harry Percy, sent from my brother Worcester. Whensoever, Harry, how fares your uncle?
I had thought, my lord, to have learned his health of you.
Why? Is he not with the queen?
No, my good lord, he hath forsook the court, broken his staff of office, and dispersed the household of the king.
What was his reason? He was not so resolved when we last spake together.
Because your lordship was proclaimed traitor, but he, my lord, is gone to Ravenspur to offer service to the Duke of Hereford, and sent me over by Berkeley to discover what power the Duke of York had levied there, then with direction to repair to Ravensburg.
Have you forgot the Duke of Hereford, boy?
No, my good lord, for that is not forgot, which ne'er I did remember. To my knowledge, I never did in life look upon him.
Then learn to know him now. This is the Duke.
My gracious lord, I tender you my service, such as it is, and being tender, raw, and young, which elder days shall ripen and confirm to more approved service and desert.
I thank thee, gentle Percy, and be sure I count myself in nothing else so happy as in a soul remembering my good friends. And as my fortune ripens with thy love, it shall be still thy true love's recompense. My heart this covenant makes, my hand thus seals it.
How far is it to Berkeley? And what stir keeps good old York there with his men of war?
There stands the castle by yon tuft of trees, manned with 300 men, as I have heard, and in it are the lords of York, Berkeley, and Seymour, none else of name and noble estimate.
Here come the lords of Ross and Willoughby, bloodied with spurring, fiery red with haste.
Welcome, my lords. I watch your love pursues a banished traitor. All my treasury is yet but unfelt thanks, which more enriched shall be your love and labor's recompense.
Your presence makes us rich, most noble lord.
And far surmounts our labor to attain it.
Evermore thanks the exchequer of the poor, which till my infant fortune come to years stands for my bounty. But who comes here?
It is my lord of Berkeley, as I guess.
My lord of Hereford, my message is to you.
My lord, my answer is to Lancaster. And I am come to seek that name in England, and I must find that title in your tongue before I make reply to aught you say.
Mistake me not, my lord, 'tis not my meaning to raise one title of your honor out. To you, my lord, I come, what lord you will, from the most glorious of this land, the Duke of York, to know what pricks you on to take advantage of the absent time and fright our native peace with self-born arms.
I shall not need transport my words by you. Here comes his grace in person, my noble uncle.
Show me thy humble heart, not thy knee, whose duty is deceivable and false.
My gracious uncle.
Tut, tut. Grace me no grace, nor uncle me. I am no traitor's uncle, and that word grace in an ungracious mouth is but profane. Why have these banished and forbidden legs dared once to touch a dust of England's ground? But more than why have they dared to march so many miles upon her peaceful bosom, frighting her pale-faced villages with war and ostentation of despised arms? Comest thou because the anointed king is hence? Why, foolish boy, the king is left behind, and in my loyal bosom lies his power. Were I but now the lord of such hot youth as when brave Gaunt, thy father, and myself rescued the Black Prince, that young Mars of men, from forth the ranks of many thousand French. Oh, then, how quickly should this arm of mine, now prisoner to the palsy, chastise thee and minister correction to thy fault.
My gracious uncle, let me know my fault. On what condition stands it, and wherein?
Even in condition of the worst degree, in gross rebellion and detested treason, thou art a banished man, and here art come before the expiration of thy time in braving arms against thy sovereign.
As I was banished Hereford, but as I come for Lancaster. And noble uncle, I beseech your grace, look on my wrongs with an indifferent eye. You are my father, for methinks in you I see old Gaunt alive. O then, my father, will you permit that I shall stand condemned a wandering vagabond, my rights and royalties plucked from my arms perforce and given away to upstart unthrifts? Wherefore was I born? If that my cousin king be king of England, it must be granted I am Duke of Lancaster. You have a son, a Merle, my noble kinsman. Had you first died, and he been thus trod down, he should have found his uncle Gaunt a father to rouse his wrongs and chase them to the bay. I am denied to sue my livery here, and yet my letter's patents gives me leave. My father's goods are all distrained and sold, and these and all are all amiss employed. What would you have me do? I am a subject and challenge law. Attorneys are denied me, and therefore personally I lay my claim to my inheritance of free descent.
The noble Duke hath been too much abused.
It stands your grace upon to do him right.
Base men by his endowment are made great.
My lords of England, let me tell you this. I have had feelings of my cousin's wrongs and labored all I could to do him right. But in this kind, to come in braving arms, be his own carver, and cut out his way to find out right with wrongs, it may not be. And you that do abet him in this kind, cherish rebellion and are rebels whole.
The noble Duke hath sworn his coming is but for his own, and for the right of that we all have strongly sworn to give him aid, and let him never see joy that breaks that oath.
Well, well, I see the issue of these arms. I cannot mend it. I must needs confess, because my power is weak and all ill left. But if I could, by him that gave me life, I would attach you all and make you stoop until the sovereign mercy of the king. But since I cannot, be it known to you, I do remain as neuter. So fare you well, unless you please to enter in the castle, and there repose you for this night.
An offer, uncle, that we will accept. But we must win your grace to go with us to Bristol Castle, which they say is held by Bushy, Bagot, and their accomplices, the caterpillars of the Commonwealth, which I have sworn to weed and pluck away.
It may be I will go with you, but yet I'll pause, for I am loath to break our country's laws. Nor friends nor foes to me welcome you are. Things past redress are now with me past care.
My lord of Salisbury, we have stayed 10 more days and hardly keep our countrymen together, and yet we hear no tidings from the king. Therefore we will disperse ourselves. Farewell.
Stay yet another day, thou trusty Welchman. The king reposeth all his confidence in thee.
'Tis thought the king is dead. We will not stay. The bay trees in our country are all withered, and meteors fight the stars. The pale face looks lucky on the earth, and the beam looks off its whisper fearful change. And wrong and me, in their schools, to enjoy by age and war. These signs found the death of all of kings. Farewell. Our countrymen are gone fled, as well as the king is dead.
Oh, Richard, with eyes of heavy mind I see thy glory, like a shooting star fall to the base earth from the firmament. Thy sun sets weeping in the lowly west, witnessing storms to come, woe and unrest. Thy friends are fled to wait upon thy foes, and crossly to thy good all fortune goes.
Working Men's Cafe.
Bring forth these men. Bushy and Green, I will not vex your souls, since presently your souls must part your bodies, with too much urging your pernicious lives, for 'twere no charity. Yet to wash your blood from off my hands, here in the view of men, I will unfold some causes of your deaths. You have misled a prince, a royal king, a happy gentleman in blood and lineaments by you unhappied and disfigured clean. You have in manner, with your sinful hours, made a divorce betwixt his queen and him, broke the possession of a royal bed, and stained the beauty of a fair queen's cheeks with tears drawn fro her eyes with your foul wrongs. Myself a prince, by fortune of my birth, near to the king in blood and near in love, till you did make him misinterpret me, have stooped my neck under your injuries, and sighed my English breath in foreign clouds, eating the bitter bread of banishment, while you have fed upon my seigniories, disparked my parks, and felled my forest woods. From mine own windows torn my household coat, raised out my impress, leaving me no sign save men's opinions, and my living blood to show the world I am a gentleman. This and much more than twice all this condemns you to the death. See them delivered over to execution and the hand of death.
More welcome is the stroke of death to me than Bolingbroke to England.
My comfort is that heaven will take our souls and plague injustice with the pains of hell.
My lord Northumberland, see them dispatched. Uncle, you say the queen is at your house. For heaven's sake, fairly let her be entreated. Tell her I send to her my kind commends. Take special care my greetings be delivered.
A gentleman of mine I have dispatched with letters of your love to her at large.
Thanks, gentle uncle. Come, lords, away to fight with Glendower and his accomplices. A while to work, and after, holiday.
Barclay Castle call you this at hand?
Yea, my lord. How brook your grace the air after your late tossing on the break?
Needs must I like it well. I weep for joy to stand upon my kingdom once again. Dear earth, I do salute thee with my hand. Though rebels wound thee with their horses' hooves, as a long-parted mother with her child plays fondly with her tears and smiles in meeting, so weeping, smiling, greet I thee, my earth, and do thee favor with my royal hands. Feed not thy sovereign's foe, my gentle earth, nor with thy sweets comfort his ravenous sense, but let thy spiders that suck up thy venom and heavy-gated toads lie in their way, doing annoyance to their treacherous feet, which with usurping steps do trample thee. Yield stinging nettles to mine enemies, and with they from thy bosom pluck a flower. Guard it, I prithee, with a lurking adder, whose double tongue may with a mortal touch throw death upon thy sovereign's enemies. Mock not my senseless conjuration, lords. This earth shall have a feeling, and these stones prove armed soldiers, ere her native king shall falter under foul, rebellious arms.
Fear not, my lord, that power that made you king hath power to keep you king in spite of all. The means that heavens yield must be embraced and not neglected. Else heaven would, and we will not. Heaven's offer we refuse, the proffered means of succor and redress.
He means, my lord, that we are too remiss, whilst Bolingbroke, though through our security, grows strong and great in substance and in friends.
This comfortable cousin, knowest thou not that when the searching eye of heaven is hid behind the globe that lights the lower world, then thieves and robbers range abroad unseen, and murders and an outrage bloody here. But when from under this terrestrial ball he fires the proud tops of the eastern pines and darts his lightning through every guilty hole, then murders, treason, and detested sins, the cloak of night being plucked from off their backs, stand bare and naked, trembling at themselves. So when this thief, this traitor, Bolingbroke, who all this while have reveled in the night, shall see us rising in our throne, the east, his treasons will sit blushing in his face, not able to endure the sight of day, but self-affright to tremble at his sin. Not all the water in the rough, rude sea can wash the balm from an anointed king. The breath of worldly men cannot depose the deputy elected by the Lord. For every man that Bolingbroke hath pressed to lift shrewd steel against our golden crown, heaven for his Richard hath in heavenly pay a glorious angel. Then if angels fight, weak men must fall, for heaven still guards the right. Welcome, my lord. How far off lies your power?
Nor near nor farther off, my gracious lord, than this weak arm. Discomfort guides my tongue, and bids me speak of nothing but despair. One day too late, I fear, my noble lord, hath clouded all thy happy days on earth. Oh, call back yesterday, bid time return, and thou shalt have 12,000 fighting men. Today, unhappy day, too late, o'erthrows thy joys, friends, fortune, and thy state. For all the Welshmen hearing thou wert dead, are gone to Bolingbroke, dispersed and fled.
Comfort, my liege. Why looks your grace so pale?
But now the blood of 20,000 men did triumph in my face, and they are fled. Until so much blood thither come again, have I not reason to look pale and dead? All souls that will be safe fly from my side, for time has set a blot upon my pride.
Comfort, my liege. Remember who you are.
I had forgot myself. Am I not king? Awake, thou sluggard majesty, thou sleepest. Is not the king's name 40,000 names? Arm, arm my name. A puny subject strikes at thy great glory. Look not to the ground. Yet favorites of a king are we not high? High be our thoughts. I know my uncle York hath power enough to serve our turn. But who comes here?
Oh, more health and happiness betide my liege than can my care-tuned tongue deliver him.
My ear is open and my heart prepared. The worst is worldly loss thou canst unfold. Say, is my kingdom lost? Why 'twas my care, and what loss is it to be rid of care? Strives Bolingbroke to be as great as we? Greater he shall not be. If he serve God, we'll serve him too and be his fellow. So, revolt our subjects that we cannot mend. They break their faith to God as well as us. Cry woe, destruction, ruin, loss, decay. The worst is death, and death will have his day.
Oh, glad am I that your highness is so armed to bear the tidings of calamity, like an unreasonable stormy day which makes the silver rivers drown their shores, as if the world were all dissolved to tears. So high above his limits swells the rage of Bolingbroke, covering your fearful land with high bright steel and hearts harder than steel. White bears have armed their thin and hairless scalps against thy majesty, and boys with women's voices strive to speak big and clap their female joints in stiff, unwieldy arms against thy crown. Thy very beadsmen lean to bend their bows of double fatal huge against thy state. Yea, distaff women manage rusty bills against thy seat, both young and old rebel, and all goes worse than I have power to tell.
Too well thou tellest a tale so ill. Where is the Earl of Wiltshire? Where is Bagot? What has become of Bushy? Where's Green? That they have let the dangerous enemy measure our confines with such peaceful steps? If we prevail, their head shall pay for it. I warrant they have made peace with Bolingbroke.
Oh, peace have they made with him indeed, my lord.
Oh, villains, vipers damned without redemption, dogs, easily won to fawn on any man, snakes in my heart, blood warm that stings my heart. 3 Judases, each one thrice worse than Judas. Would they make peace? Terrible hell, make war upon their spotted souls for this offense.
Oh, sweet love, I see, changing his property, tunes to the sourest and most deadly hate. Again, uncurse their souls, their peace is made with heads and not with hands. Those whom you curse have felt the worst of death destroying hand, and lie full low, graved in the hollow ground.
Is Bushy Green and the Earl of Wiltshire dead?
Yea, all of them at Bristol lost their heads.
Oh, where is the Duke, my father, with his power?
No matter where. Of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves, of worms, and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills, and yet not so. For what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lands, our lives, and all are Bolingbroke's, and nothing can we call our own but death. And that shall model of the and that small model of the barren earth, which serves as paste and cover to our bones. For heaven's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the deaths of kings, how some have been deposed, some slain in wars, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, and all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antique sits scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh, which walls about our life, were brass impregnable, and humored thus comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle walls. And farewell, king, cover your heads and mock not flesh and blood with solemn reverence. Throw away respect, tradition, form, and ceremonious duty, for you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends. Subjected thus, how can you say to me, I am a king?
My lord, wise men ne'er sit and wail their woes, but presently prevent the ways to wail. To fear the foe, since fear oppresseth strength, gives in your weakness strength unto your foe, and so your follies fight against yourself. Fear and be slain, no worse can come to fight, and fight and die is death destroying death, where fearing dying pays death servile breath.
My father hath a power, inquire of him, and learn to make a body of a limb.
Thou chidest me well. Proud Bolingbroke, I come to change blows with thee for our day of doom. This ague fit of fear is overblown, and an easy task it is to win our own. Say, Scroop, where lies our uncle with his power? Speak sweetly, man, although thy looks be sour.
Oh, men judge by the complexion of the sky, the state and inclination of the day. So may you by my dull and heavy eye. My tongue hath but a heavier tale to say. I play the torturer by small and small to lengthen out the worst that must be spoken. Your uncle York is joined with Bolingbroke, and all your northern castles yielded up, and all your southern gentlemen in arms upon his faction.
Thou hast said enough. Beshrew thee, cousin, which didst lead me forth of that sweet way I was in to despair. What say you now? What comfort have we now? By heaven, I'll hate him everlastingly that bids me be of comfort any more. Go to Flint Castle, there I'll pine away, a king. Woe slave shall kingly woe obey. That power I have, discharge and let me go to ear the land that hath some hope to grow, for I have none. Let no man speak again to alter this, for counsel is but vain.
My liege, a word.
He does me double wrong that wounds me with the flatteries of his tongue. Discharge my followers, let them hence away from Richard's night to Bolingbroke's fair day.
So that by this intelligence we learn the Welshmen are dispersed, and Salisbury's gone to meet the king, who lately landed with some few private friends upon this coast.
The news is very fair and good, my lord. Richard, not far from hence, hath hid his head.
It would beseem the Lord Northumberland to say, King Richard, alack the heavy day, when such a sacred king should hide his head.
Your grace mistakes. Only to be brief left I his title out.
The time hath been. Would you have been so brief with him? He would have been so brief with you, to shorten you, for taking so the head, your whole head's length.
Mistake not, uncle, farther than you should.
Least you mistake the heavens are over your head.
I know it, uncle, and oppose not myself against their will. But who comes here? Welcome, Harry. What, will not this castle yield?
The castle royally is manned, my lord, against thy entrance.
Royally? Why, it contains no king.
Yes, my good lord, it doth contain a king. King Richard lies within the limits of yon lime and stone, and with him the Lord Admiral, Lord Salisbury, Sir Stephen Scrope, besides a clergyman of holy reverence who I cannot learn.
Oh, belike it is the Bishop of Carlisle.
Noble lord, go to the rude ribs of that ancient castle, through brazen trumpet send the breath of parle into his ruined ears, and thus deliver. Henry Bolingbroke upon his knees doth kiss King Richard's hand, and sends allegiance and true faith of heart to his royal person. Hither come even at his feet to lay my arms and power, provided that my banishment repealed and lands restored again be freely granted. If not, I'll use the advantage of my power and lay the summer's dust with showers of blood, rained from the wounds of slaughtered Englishmen, the which, how far off from the mind of Bolingbroke it is, such crimson tempest should bedrench the fresh green lap of fair King Richard's land, my stooping duty tenderly shall show. Go, signify as much. While here we march upon the grassy carpet of this plain, let's march without the noise of threatening drum, that from this castle's tattered battlements our fair appointments may be well perused. Methinks King Richard and myself should meet with no less terror than the elements of fire and water. When their thundering smoke at meeting tears the cloudy cheeks of heaven, be he the fire, I'll be the yielding water. The rage be his, while on the earth I rain my waters on the earth and not on him. March on, and mark King Richard how he looks. See, King Richard doth himself appear as doth the blushing, discontented sun from out the fiery portal of the east, when he perceives the envious clouds are bent to dim his glory, and to stain the tract of his bright passage to the Occident.
Yet looks he like a king. Behold his eye, as bright as the eagle's, lightens forth controlling majesty. Alack for woe that any harm could stain so fair a show.
We are amazed, and thus long have we stood to watch the fearful bending of thy knee, because we thought ourself thy lawful king. And if we be, how dare thy joints forget to pay their awful duty to our presence? If we be not, show us the hand of God that has dismissed us from our stewardship. For well we know no hand of blood and bone can gripe the sacred handle of our scepter, unless he do profane, steal, or usurp. And though you think that all, as you have done, have torn their souls by turning them from us, and we are barren and bereft of friends, yet know, my master, God, omnipotent, is mustering in his clouds on our behalf armies of pestilence, and they shall strike your children yet unborn and unbegot, that lift your vassal hands against my head and threat the glory of my precious crown. Tell Bolingbroke, for yon methinks he is, that every stride he makes upon my land is dangerous treason. He is come to ope the purple testament of bleeding war. But ere the crowns he looks for live in peace, 10,000 bloody crowns of mother's son shall ill become the flower of England's face, change the complexion of her maid pale peace to scarlet indignation, and bedew her pastor's grass with faithful English blood.
The King of Heaven forbid our Lord the King should so with civil and uncivil arms be rushed upon. Thy thrice noble cousin, Harry Bolingbroke, doth humbly kiss thy hand, and by the noble tomb he swears that stands upon your royal grandsire's bones, and by the royalties of both your bloods, currents that spring from one most gracious head, and by the buried hand of warlike Gaunt, and by the worth and honor of himself, comprising all that may be sworn or said, his coming hither hath no further scope than for his lineal royalties, and to beg enfranchisement immediate on his knees, which on thy royal party granted once, his glittering arms he will commend to rust, his barbed steeds to stables, and his heart to faithful service of your majesty. This swears he, as he is a prince, is just, and as I am a gentleman, I credit him.
Northumberland say thus. The king returns, his noble cousin is right welcome hither, and all the number of his fair demands shall be accomplished without contradiction. With all the gracious utterance thou hast, speak to his gentle hearing, kind commends. We do debase ourselves. Cousin, do we not, to look so poorly and to speak so fair? Shall we call back Northumberland and send defiance to the traitor and so die?
No, my good lord, let's fight with gentle words till time lend friends and friends their hopeful swords.
Oh God. Oh God, that ere this tongue of mine that made the sentence of dread banishment on yon proud man should take it off again with words of sooth. Oh, that I were as great as is my grief, or lesser than my name, or that I could forget what I have been, or not remember what I must be now. Swellest thou, proud heart. I'll give thee scope to beat, since foes have scope to beat both thee and me.
Northumberland comes back from Bolingbroke.
What must the king do now? Must he submit? The king shall do it. Must he be deposed? The king shall be contented. Must he lose the name of king? Oh, God's name, let it go. I'll give my jewels for a set of beads, my gorgeous palace for a hermitage, my gay apparel for an almsman's gown, my figured goblets for a dish of wood, my scepter for a palmer's walking staff, my subjects for a pair of carved saints, and my large kingdom for a little grave. Little grave. An obscure grave. Or I'll be buried in the king's highway, some way of common trade where subjects' feet may hourly trample on their sovereign's head. For on my heart they tread now whilst I live, and buried once, why, not upon my head. I'm Earl. Thou weepest, tender-hearted cousin, will make foul weather with despised tears our sighs, and they shall lodge the summer corn and make a dearth in this revolting land. Or shall we play the wantons with our woes and make some pretty march with shedding tears, as thus to drop them still upon one place till they have fretted us a pair of graves within the earth, and therein laid their lies, two kinsmen digged their graves with weeping eyes? Would not this ill do well? Well, I see I talk but idly, and you mock at me. Most mighty prince, my lord Northumberland, what says King Bolingbroke? Will his majesty give Richard leave to live till Richard die? You make a leg, and Bolingbroke, says I.
My lord, in the base court he doth attend to speak with you. May it please you to come down?
Down I come, like glittering, glistering Phaeton, wanting the manage of unruly jades. In the base court, where kings grow base, to come at traitors' call and do them grace. in the base court. Come down, down, court, down, king, for night owls shriek what mounting larks should sing.
What says his majesty?
Sorrow and grief of heart makes him speak fondly, like a frantic man. Yet he is come.
Stand all apart, and show fair duty to his majesty. My gracious lord.
Fair cousin, you debase your princely knee to make to the base earth proud with kissing it. Me rather had my heart might feel your love, than my unpleased eye see your courtesy. Up, cousin, up! Your heart is up, I know. Thus high at last, although your knee be low.
My gracious lord, I come but for mine own.
Your own is yours, and I am yours, and all.
So far be mine, my most redoubted lord, as my true service shall deserve your love.
Well, you deserved. They well deserved to have that know the strongest and surest way to get. Uncle, give me your hand. They dry your eyes. Tears show their love, but want their remedies. Cousin, I am too young to be your father, though you are old enough to be my heir. What you will have, I'll give, and willing too, for do we must what force will have us do. Set on towards London, cousin. Is it so?
Yea, my good lord.
Then I must not say no.
You're on mute, Verge.
Virginia, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. I do. Okay, so 5 minutes. I just was saying, you guys are so good. And this play is really hard to take, isn't it?
We have 5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, 5 minutes. You all are doing so well, I think.
Thank you.
It's just so heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. But he was such a screw up too. And that last scene is so fascinating. Well, we'll talk about it after the whole play's done.
Right. We can't hear half of what's going on because we're actually away from the castle. So that's why we're not reacting to Richard's antics in that scene.
Yeah.
Not until the end does he come
And
down.
it's real cat and mouse. It's
Yeah, I'm just like, what the heck is going on up there? I'm just going to wait down here.
Yeah.
So eventually I'll meet that guy.
He kind of does himself in, but he knows.
I didn't realize we're on a
He
break.
knows he has no power.
Yeah.
I was peeing. I was worried that I was going to miss the scene.
Not again, Michael. You can't do that again.
No. That's why around now I said my scene is coming up. Let me go take a piss. My last scene of the day.
You got to time your peeing very bad.
I know, right? Oh God, it's like the worst feeling when you get older and you can't hold it.
I know you got to pee every half hour, especially if you're
Well,
going.
no, it's like you can't hold it
drink a
in.
cup of tea, you're screwed.
Right, or coffee.
It's like being a teacher. You got to time it.
Oh yes.
When I used to go to Shakespeare in the Park, that Love's Labor's Lost, they did it as one act, but they didn't go up till 10 after. And the one act was an hour and 50 minutes. So it was probably 2 hours, and sometimes it was 2:10. It lagged or something. I don't know. And that last scene of Love's Labor's Lost, unless it's played well, is really like, why are they going on and on and on? It's like,
That is true. Yeah.
to me, it should end. To me, it should end when she finds out her father's dead, and her and what's his name? He has a scene with her, Baron.
Yeah, Baron.
And there's a nice love scene there. To me, all that other stuff that comes afterwards, I've seen it. Listen, the guys at the Hudson Classic did fantastic stuff with it. So I said, oh, well, if you can make it work, because those guys were great. Maybe they cut some of it, but it does linger on. And when they did
I saw it done once. I saw it done once by some, I forget what they called themselves. 15 years ago in Long Island City. And they said it all like the groovy 60s. And it was adorable. It worked really well.
So like that whole bit that they do the play within the play and the song at the ending, and it works because it's,
you got to rush through it, man. And it's like the end of Romeo and Juliet. Oh my gosh. It's not smart when they have Friar Lawrence recapping the whole thing. Oh my god.
Oh, she sits and
Honestly, most of Shakespeare only works if you cut half the monologues that aren't really serving much of a purpose.
A lot of times you have to, yeah.
They did the smart thing. Yeah, in the park this summer. They did the smart thing.
Not all that long. This one
with
is
Othello. Did you see the Othello?
Othello's swift. Othello's very
swift. They took Sir's advice. They said, when Othello's dead, the play is over. Say what you have to say with speed and put the audience out of their misery. Well, in this one, in the Delacour, they had him die, blackout, end of play. You didn't need that little comment at the end. You think he thought he had his sword, happy.
Did you guys hear anything about Brannan's Lear in London? It's coming to New York. It's going to be in the shed.
Who's playing Lear?
He's doing Lear, and evidently it got a great review in The Economist, and he cut it.
Who's playing Lear? Who's playing Lear?
Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, of course. It'll be fantastic.
He's old enough to play Lear now. I feel old.
That's amazing.
Oh, God. I would love to see that papers.
63 yet.
I want to see it. That means we all are.
Are they doing this here in New York?
Yes, they're going to do it at that shed venue over at Chelsea Piers at the.
How much is tickets?
A weird movable building.
Wow, I would love to see this.
Michael, but it's not. They're not up yet.
When is it opening? Do you know? I gotta get.
I think it's going to be like sometime late next year, like in the third quarter.
So he hasn't said who else is in it yet.
No, I didn't say anything else about casting.
Who's directing it? He's not directing it too, is he?
I think he's directing it too.
Really?
He adapted it. He cut viciously. Evidently, it's like 2 hours.
Oh, he's directing it too.
I think so.
I loved Derek Jacobi's. I saw that at BAM like 15 years ago. Brilliant. I
saw that too.
5 minutes. 5 minutes finish.
He was nude.
Are we ready?
I missed Ian McKellen's. Dang.
Are we ready?
Thank you,
Tony.
I'm just getting off camera.
Should we resume?
Yeah, I'm getting off camera.
Oh, okay. Act 3, Scene 4 with the Queen. Here we go.
What sport shall we devise here in this garden to drive away the heavy thought of care?
Madam, we'll play at bowls.
'Twill make me think the world is full of rubs and that my fortune runs against the bias.
Madam, we'll dance.
My legs can keep no measure in delight when my poor heart no measure keeps in grief. Therefore, no dancing, girl, some other sport.
Madam, we'll tell tales.
Of sorrow or of grief?
Of either, madam.
Of neither, girl. For if of joy being altogether wanting, it doth remember me the more of sorrow. Or if of grief being altogether had, it adds more sorrow to my want of joy. For what I have, I need not to repeat, and what I want, it boots not to complain.
Madam, I'll sing.
'Tis well that thou hast cause. But thou shouldst please me better, wouldst thou weep?
I could weep, madam. Would it do you good?
And I could sing, would weeping do me good, and never borrow any tear of thee. But stay, here come the gardeners. Let's step into the shadow of these trees, my wretchedness unto a row of pines. They'll talk of state, for every one doth sow against a change. Woe is forerun with woe.
Go, bind up thou young dangling apricocks, which like unruly children make their sires stoop with oppression of their prodigal weight. Give some supportance to the bending twigs. Go thou, and like an executioner, cut off the heads of too fast-growing sprays that look too lofty in our commonwealth. All must be even in our government. You thus employed, I will go root away the noisome weeds that without profit suck
the soil's fertility from wholesome flowers. Hello.
Why should we, in the compass of a pale, keep law and form and due proportion, showing as in a model or firm estate? When our sea-walled garden, the whole land is full of weeds, her fairest flowers choked up, her fruit trees all unpruned, her hedges ruined, her nuts disordered, and her wholesome herbs swarming with caterpillars.
Hold thy peace. He that suffered this disordered spring has now himself met with the fall of leaf. The weeds that his broad spreading leaves did shelter, that seemed in eating him to hold him up, are pulled up, root and all, by Bolingbroke. I mean the Earl of Wiltshire, Bushy, Green.
What? Are they dead?
They are. And Bolingbroke has seized the wasteful king. Ah, what a pity is it, that he had not so trimmed and dressed his land as we this garden that time of year, and wound the bark, the skin of our fruit tree, lest being overproud with sap and blood, with too much riches it confound itself. Had he done so to great and growing men, they might have lived to bear, and eat a taste their fruits of duty. Superfluous branches we lop away, that bearing boughs may live. Had he done so, himself had borne the crown, which waste and idle hours has quite thrown down.
What? Think you the king shall be deposed?
Depressed he is already, disposed 'tis doubted he will be. Letters came last night to a dear friend of the Duke of York's, tell her black tidings.
Oh, I am pressed to death through want of speaking. Thou old Adam's likeness set to dress this garden. How dares thy harsh, rude tongue sound this unpleasing news? What Eve, what serpent hath suggested thee to make a second fall of cursed man? Why dost thou say King Richard is deposed? Darest thou little better thing than earth, divine his downfall? Say where, when, and how camest thou by this ill tidings? Speak, thou wretch.
Pardon me, madam. Little joy have I to breathe these news, yet what I say is true. King Richard, he is in the mighty hold of Bolingbroke. Their fortunes, both her weight and your lord's scale, is nothing but himself, and some few vanities that make him light. But in the balance of great Bolingbroke, beside himself are all the English peers, and with that odds he weighs King Richard down. Post you to London, you'll find it so. I speak no more than everyone doth know.
Nimble mischance that art so light of foot. Doth not thy embassage belong to me? And am I last that knows it? Oh, thou think'st to serve me last, that I may longest keep thy sorrow in my breast. Come, ladies, go to meet at London, London's king in woe. What was I born to this, that my sad look should grace the triumph of great Bolingbroke? Gardener, for telling me this news of woe, I would the plants thou graft'st may never grow.
Poor queen, so that thy state might be no worse, I would my skill was subject to thy curse. Here did she drop a tear. Here, in this place, I'll set a bank of rue, sour herb of grace, rue, even for Ruth. Here shortly shall be seen, in the remembrance of a weeping queen.
Act 4, Scene 1.
Call forth Bagot. Now, Bagot, freely speak thy mind what thou dost know of noble Gloucester's death. Who wrought it with the king, and who performed the bloody office of his timeless end?
Then set before my face the Lord Omer.
Cousin, stand forth and look upon that man.
My Lord Omer, I know your daring tongue scorns to unsay what it hath once delivered. In that dead time, when Gloucester's death was plotted, I heard you say, "Is not my arm of length that reacheth from the restful English court as far as Calais to my uncle's head?" Amongst much other talk that very time, I heard you say that you had rather refuse the offer of 100,000 crowns than Bolingbroke's return to England, adding withal how blessed this land would be in this your cousin's death.
Princes and noble lords, what answer shall I make to this base man? Shall I so much dishonor my fair stars on equal terms to give him chastisement? Either I must, or have mine honor soiled with the attainder of his slanderous lips. There's my gauge, the manual scale of death that makes thee out for hell. Thou liest, and I will maintain what thou hast said is false in thy heart blood, though being all too base to stain the temper of my knightly sword.
Bagot, forbear, thou shalt not take it up.
Excepting one, I would he were the best in all this presence that hath moved me so.
If that thy valor stand unsympathized, there is my gage, Merle, engaged to thine. By that fair sun that shows me where thou standest, I heard thee say, and vauntingly thou spakest it, that thou wert cause of noble Gloucester's death. If thou deniest it 20 times, thou liest, and I will turn thy falsehood to thy heart where it was forged with my rapier's point.
Thou darest not, coward, live to see the day.
No, by my soul, I would it were this hour.
Fitzwater, thou art damned to hell for this.
Omer, thou liest. His honor is as true in this appeal as thou art all unjust, and that thou art so, there I throw my gage to prove it on thee, to the extremest point of mortal breathing. Seize it if thou darest.
And if I do not, may my hands rot off, and never brandish more revengeful steel over the glittering helmet of my foe.
My lord Fitzwater, I do remember well the very time O'Merrill and you did talk.
My lord, 'tis very true. You were in presence then, and you can witness with me this is true.
As false by heaven as heaven itself is true.
Sorry thou liest.
Dishonorable boy, that lie shall lie so heavy on my sword that it shall render vengeance and revenge, till thou, the lie-giver, and that lie do lie in earth as quiet as thy father's skull. In proof whereof there is mine honor's pawn, engage it to the trial if thou darest.
How fondly dost thou spur a forward horse! If I dare eat, or drink, or breathe, or live, I dare meet Surrey in a wilderness and spit upon him whilst I say he lies and lies and lies. And there is my bond of faith
to tie thee to my strong correction, and I intend to thrive in this new world. Omer is guilty of my true appeal. Besides, I heard the banished Norfolk say that thou, Omer, did send 2 of thy men to execute the noble Duke at Calais.
Some honest Christian trust me with another gage. That Norfolk lies. Here do I throw down this, if he may be repealed, to try his honor.
These differences shall all rest under gage till Norfolk be repealed. Repealed he shall be, and, though mine enemy, restored again to all his lands and seigneuries. When he's returned, against a morrow we will enforce his trial.
That honorable day shall never be seen. Many a time hath banished Norfolk fought for Jesus Christ in Christian field, streaming the ensign of the Christian cross against black pagans, Turks, and Saracens, and toiled with works of war, retired himself to Italy, and there saved his body to that pleasant country's earth, and his soul unto his captain Christ, under whose he had fought so long.
Why, Bishop, is Norfolk dead?
As surely as I live, my lord.
Sweet peace conduct his sweet soul to the bosom of good old Abraham. Lords appellants, your differences shall all rest under gage till we assign to you your days of trial.
Great Duke of Lancaster, I come to thee from plum-plucked Richard, who with willing soul adopts the heir, and his high scepter yields to the possession of thy royal hand. Ascend his throne, descending now from him, and long live Henry of that name the fourth.
In God's name, I'll ascend the regal throne.
Marry, God forbid! Worst in this royal presence may I speak, yet best beseeming me to speak the truth. Would God that any in this noble presence were enough noble to be upright judge of noble Richard, then true noblesse would learn him forbearance from so far wrong. What subjects can give sentence on his king, and who sits here that is Richard's subject? These are not judged, but they are by to hear, although apparent guilt be seen in them, and shall the figure of God's majesty's captain, steward, deputy elect, anointed, crowned, planted many years, be judged by subject and inferior breath, and he himself not present? Oh, forfended God, that in a Christian climate souls refined should show so heinous, black, obscene a deed. I speak to subjects, and the subject speaks, stirred up by God solely for his king. My lord of Hereford here, whom you call king, is a foul traitor to proud Hereford's king, and if you crown him, let me prophesy the blood of the ground and future ages groan for this foul act. Peace shall go sleep with Turks and infidels, and in the seat of peace tumultuous war shall kin with kin and kind with kind confound. Disorder, fear and mutiny shall here inhabit, and this land be called the field of Golgotha, and men's skulls. Oh, if you raise this house against this house, it will the woefulest division prove that ever fell upon this cursed earth. Prevent it, resist it, let it not be so, lest child's children cry against you, woe!
Well have you argued, sir. And for this, and for your pains of capital treason, we arrest you here. My Lord of Westminster, be it your charge to keep him safely till his day of trial. May it please you, lords, to grant the common suit.
Fetch hither Richard, that in common view he may surrender. So we shall proceed without suspicion.
I will be his conduct.
Lords, you that are here are under our arrest. Procure your sureties for your days of answer. Little are we beholden to your love, and little look for at your helping hands.
Alack, why am I sent for to a king, before I have shook off the regal thoughts wherewith I reigned? I hardly yet have learned to insinuate, flatter, bow, and bend my knee. Give sorrow leave a while to tutor me to the submission. Yet I well remember the favors of these men. Were they not mine? Did they not sometimes cry, all hail to me? So Judas did to Christ. But he in 12 found truth in all but one. I in 12,000, none. God save the king. Will no man say amen? Am I both priest and clerk? Well then, amen. God save the king. Although I be not he, and yet amen. If heaven do think him me, to do what service am I sent for hither?
To do that office of thine own goodwill, which tired majesty did make the offer. The resignation of thy state and crown to Henry Bolingbroke.
Give me the crown. Here, cousin, seize your crown. Here, cousin, on this side, my hand, on that side, thine. Now is this golden crown like a deep well that owes 2 buckets, filling one another, the emptier ever dancing in the air, the other down, unseen and full of water. That bucket down and full of tears am I, drinking my griefs while you mount up on high.
I thought you had been willing to resign.
My crown I am, but still my griefs are mine. You may my glories and my state depose, but not my griefs. Still am I king of those.
Part of your cares you give me with your crown.
Your care set up, do not pluck my cares down. My care is loss of care by old care done. Your care is gain of care by new care won. That cares I give I have, though given away, they tend the crown, yet still with me they stay.
Are you contented to resign the crown?
I? No. No. For I must nothing be. Therefore, no. No. For I resign to thee. Now, mark me how I will undo myself. I give this heavy weight from off my head, and this unwieldy scepter from my hand. The pride of kingly sway from out my heart. With thy own tears I wash away my balm, and with mine own hands I give away my crown. With mine own tongue deny my sacred state. With mine own breath release all duteous oaths. All pomp and majesty I do forswear. My manors, rents, revenues I forgo. My acts decrees and statutes I deny. God, pardon all oaths that are broke to me. God, keep all vows unbroke are made to thee. Make me that nothing have with nothing grieved, and thou with all pleased that hast all achieved. Thou mayest thou live in Richard's seat to sit, and soon lie Richard in an earthy pit. God save King Henry, unkinged, Richard says, and send him many years of sunshine days. What more remains?
No more. But that you read these accusations and these grievous crimes committed by your person and your followers against the state and profit of this land, that by confessing them, the souls of men may deem that you are worthily deposed.
Must I do so? And must I ravel out my weaved up follies? Gentle Northumberland, if thy offense were upon record, would it not shame thee in so fair a troop to read a lecture of them? If thou wouldst, there shouldst thou find one heinous article containing the deposing of a king and cracking the strong warrant of an oath marked with a blot damned in the book of heaven. Nay, all of you that stand and look upon me, whilst that my wretchedness doth bait myself, though some of you with Pilate wash your hands, showing an outward pity, yet you pilots have here delivered me to my sour cross, and water cannot wash away your sin.
My lord, dispatch, read o'er these articles.
My eyes are full of tears, I cannot see. And yet salt water blinds them not so much, but they can see a sort of traitor here. Nay, if I turn my eyes upon myself, I find myself a traitor with the rest. For I have given here my soul's consent to undeck the pompous body of a king, made glory base of sovereignty, a slave, proud majesty, a subject, state, a peasant.
My lord.
No, lord of thine, thou hot insulting man, no, nor no man's lord. I have no name, no title. No, not that name was given me at the font, but 'tis usurped. Alack, the heavy day that I have worn so many winters out, and now not know what name to call myself. Oh, that I were a mockery. King of snow, standing before the son of Bolingbroke to melt myself away in watery drops. Good king, great king, and yet not greatly good. And if my word be sterling, yet in England, let it command a mirror hither straight, that it may show me what a face I have, since it is bankrupt of his majesty.
Go, some of you, fetch a looking glass.
Read o'er this paper while the glass doth come.
Mean thou torments me ere I come to hell.
Urge it no more, my lord Northumberland.
The commons will not then be satisfied.
They shall be satisfied. I'll read enough. When I do see the very book indeed where all my sins are written, that's myself. Give me that glass, and therein will I read. No deeper wrinkles yet hath sorrow struck so many blows upon this face of mine, and made no deeper wounds. A flattering glass, like to my followers in prosperity, thou dost beguile me. Was this face the face that every day under his household roof did keep 10,000 men? Was this the face that like the sun did make beholders wink? Is this the face which faced so many follies that was at last outfaced by Bolingbroke. A brittle glory shineth in this faith, as brittle as the glory is the face, for there it is, cracked in 100 shivers. Mark, silent king, the moral of this sport, how soon my sorrow hath destroyed my face.
The shadow of your sorrow hath destroyed the shadow of your face.
Say that again. The shadow of my sorrow. Ah, let's see. It is very true. My grief lies all within, and these external manners of laments are merely shadows to the unseen grief that swells with silence in the tortured soul that lies. There lies the substance, and I thank thee, King, for thy great bounty that not only gives me cause to wail, but teaches me the way how to lament a cause. I'll beg one boon, and then be gone, and trouble you no more. Shall I obtain it?
Name it, fair cousin.
Fair cousin. I am greater than a king, for when I was a king, my flatterers were then but subjects. Being now a subject, I have a king here to my flatterer. Being so great, I had no need to beg.
Yet ask.
And shall I have?
You shall.
Then give me leave to go.
Whither?
Whither you will, or I were from your sights.
Go, some of you. Convey him to the tower.
Oh, good! Convey! Conveyors are you all that rise thus nimbly by a true king's fall.
On Wednesday next, we solemnly set down our coronation. Lords, prepare yourselves.
A woeful pageant here have we here beheld.
Woes to come. The children yet unborn shall feel this day shocks of them storm.
You holy clergymen, is there no plot to rid the realm of this pernicious blot?
Before I freely speak my mind herein, you shall not only take the sacrament to bury mine intents, but also to effect whatever I shall happen to devise. I see your brows are full of discontent, your heart of sorrow, and your eyes of tears. Come home with me to supper. I'll lay a plot shall show us all a merry day.
Act 5, Scene 1.
This way the king will come. This is the way to Julius Caesar's ill-erected tower, to whose flint bosom my condemned lord is doomed a prisoner by proud Bolingbroke. Here let us rest, if this rebellious earth have any resting for her true king's queen. But soft, but see, or rather do not see, my fair rose wither. Yet look up, behold, that you in pity may dissolve to dew and wash him fresh again with true love tears. Ah, thou, the model where old Troy did stand, thou map of honor, thou King Richard's tomb, not King Richard, thou most beauteous one. Why should hard-favored grief be lodged in thee when triumph is become an alehouse guest?
Joy not with grief, fair woman. Do not so, to make my end too sudden, learn, good soul, to thine our former state a happy dream, from which awaked the truth of what we are shows us but this. I am sworn brother, sweet to grim necessity, and he and I will keep a league till death. Hie thee to France and cloister thee in some religious house. Our holy lives must win a new world's crown, which our profane hours here have struck down.
What? Is my Richard both in shape and mind transformed and weakened? Hath Bolingbroke disposed thine intellect? He been in thine heart? The lion dying thrusteth forth his paw and wounds the earth, if nothing else with rage to be o'erpowered. And wilt thou, pupil-like, take thy correction mildly, kiss the rod, and fawn on rage with base humility, which art a lion and a king of beasts?
King of beasts, indeed. If aught but beasts, I had been still a happy king of men. Good. Sometime, queen, prepare thee hence for France. Think I am dead, and that even here thou takest as from my deathbed my last living leave. In winter's tedious nights sit by the fire with good old folks, and let them tell thee tales of woeful ages long ago betide. And ere thou bid good night to quit their grief, tell thou the lamentable fall of me, and send the hearers weeping to their beds. For why? The senseless brands will sympathize the heavy accent of thy moving tongue, and in compassion weep the fire out. And some will mourn in ashes, some coal black, for the deposing of a rightful king.
My lord, the mind of Bolingbroke is changed. You must to Pomfret, not unto the Tower. And madam, there is order ta'en for you. With all swift speed, you must away to France.
Northumberland, thou ladder wherewithal the mounting Bolingbroke ascends my throne. The time shall not be many hours of age more than it is, ere foul sin gathering head shall break into corruption. Thou shalt think, though he divide the realm and give thee half, it is too little helping him to all. He shall think that thou, which knowest the way to plant unrightful kings, wilt know again, being ne'er so little urged another way, to pluck him headlong from the usurped throne. The love of wicked friends converts to fear, that fear to hate, and hate turns one or both to worthy danger and deserved death.
My guilt be on my head, and there an end. Take leave and part, for you must part forthwith.
Doubly divorced. Bad men, ye violate a twofold marriage twixt my crown and me, and then betwixt me and my married wife. Let me unkiss the oath betwixt thee and me, and yet not so, for with a kiss 'twas made. Part us, Northumberland, I towards the north, where shivering cold and sickness pines the clime, my queen to France, from whence, set forth in pomp, she came adorned hither like sweet May, sent back like Hallowmas, or shortest of day.
Must we be divided? Must we part?
Aye, hand from hand, my love, and heart from heart.
Banish us both and send the king with me.
That were some love, but little policy.
Then whither he goes, thither let me go.
So two together weeping make one woe. Weep thou for me in France, I for thee here. Better far off than near. Be near the near. Go. Count thy ways with sighs. I, mine with groans.
So longest way shall have the longest moans.
Twice for one step I'll groan, and any way being short, and piece the way out with a heavy heart. Come in wooing sorrow, let's be brief. Since wedding it, there is such length and grief. One kiss shall stop our mouths and dumbly part. Thus give I mine, and thus take I thy heart.
Give me mine own again. 'Twere no good part to take on me to keep and kill thy heart. And so now I have mine own again. Begone, that I may strive to kill it with a groan.
We make woe wanton with this fond delay. Once more, adieu. The rest let sorrow say.
Act 5, Scene 2.
My lord, you told me you would tell the rest when weeping made you break the story off of our two cousins coming into London.
Where did I leave?
At that sad stop, my lord, or rude misgoverned hands from windows' tops, through dust and rubbish, on King Richard's head.
Then, as I said, the Duke, great Bolingbroke, mounted upon a hot and fiery steed, which his aspiring rider seemed to know, with slow but stately pace kept on his course, while all tongues cried, God save thee, Bolingbroke. You would have thought the very windows spake, so many greedy looks of young and old through casements darted their desiring eyes upon his visage, and that all the walls with painted imagery had said at once, Jesu preserve thee, welcome Bolingbroke. Whilst he, from one side to the other turning, bareheaded, lower than his proud steed's neck, bespake them thus, I thank you, countrymen. And thus still doing, thus he passed along.
Alas, poor Richard, where rides he the whilest?
As in a theatre, the eyes of men, after a well-graced actor leaves the stage, are idly bent on him that enters next, thinking his prattle to be tedious. Even so, or with much more contempt, men's eyes did scowl on Richard. No man cried, God save him. No joyful tongue gave him his welcome home, but dust was thrown upon his sacred head, which with such gentle sorrow he shook off, his face still combating with tears and smiles the badges of his grief and patience. That had not God, or for some strong purpose, steeled the hearts of men, they must perforce have melted, and barbarism itself have pitied him. But heaven hath a hand in these events, to whose high we will bound our calm contents. To Bolingbroke, are we sworn subjects now, who state and honor eye for eye allow?
Oh, here comes my son, O'Merle.
O'Merle that was, but that is lost, for being Richard's friend. And, madam, you must call him Rutland now. I am in Parliament pledged for his truth and lasting fealty to the new-made king.
Oh, welcome, my son. Who are the violets now that strew the green lap of the new-come spring?
Madam, I know not, nor I greatly care not. God knows I had as lief be none as one.
Well, bear you well in this new spring of time. Least you be cropped before you come to prime. What news from Oxford? Hold those justs and triumphs?
For aught I know, my lord, they do.
You will be there, I know.
Yes, if God prevent it not, I purpose so.
What seal is that hangs without thy bosom? Yea, lookest thou pale? Let me see the writing.
My lord, 'tis nothing.
No matter then who sees it. I will be satisfied. Let me see the writing.
I do beseech your grace to pardon me. It is a matter of small consequence, which for some reasons I would not have seen.
Which for some reason, sir, I mean to see. I fear.
Oh, what should you fear? 'Tis nothing but some bond that he has entered into for gay apparel against the triumphs.
Bound to himself? What doth he with the bond that he is bound to? Wife, thou art a fool. Boy, let me see the writing.
I do beseech you, pardon me, I may not show it.
I will be satisfied. Let me see it, I say. Treason, foul treason, villain, traitor, slave.
What's the matter, my lord?
Ha! Who's within there? Saddle my horse. Heaven for his mercy, what treachery is here?
What is it, my lord?
Give me my boots, I say. Saddle my horse. Now, by my honor, my life, my troth, I will approach the villain.
What is the matter?
Peace, foolish woman.
I will not peace. What is the matter, son?
Good mother, be content. It is no more than my poor life must answer.
Thy life answer?
Bring me my boots. I will unto the king.
Oh, strike him, Emerald. Poor boy, yet I am amazed. Hence, villain, never more come in my sight.
Give me my boots, I say.
Why, York, what wilt thou do? Wilt thou now hide the trespass of thine own? Have we more sons, or we are like to have? Is not my teeming day drunk up with time, and wilt thou plunk my fair son from mine age, and rob me of happy mother's name? Is he not like thee? Is he not thine own?
Thou fond mad woman, wilt thou conceal this dark conspiracy? A dozen of them here have ta'en the sacrament and interchangeably set down their hands to kill the king at Oxford.
Oh, he shall be none. We'll keep him here. Then what is that to him?
Away, fond woman. Were he 20 times my son, I would impeach him.
Hadst thou groaned for him as I have done, thou wouldst be more pitiful. But now I know thy mind. Thou dost suspect that I have been disloyal to thy bed, and that he is a bastard, not thy son. Oh, sweet York, sweet husband, be not of that mind. He is as like thee as a man may be, not like to me nor any of my kin, and yet I love him.
Make way, unruly woman.
After him, Earl, mount thee upon his horse, spur post, and get before him to the king, and beg thy pardon ere he do accuse thee. I'm not long behind, though I be old, I doubt not, but to ride as fast as York, and never will I rise up from the ground till Bolingbroke have pardoned thee. Away, be gone.
You all. Oh, Act 5, Scene 3.
Can no man tell me of my unthrifty son? 'Tis full 3 months that I did see him last. If any plague hang over us, 'tis he. I would to heaven, my lords, he might be found. Enquire at London mongst the taverns there. For there they say he daily doth frequent, with unrestrained loose companions, even such they say as stand in narrow lanes, and rob our watch, and beat our passengers, which he, young wanton and effeminate boy, takes on the point of honor to support so dissolute a crew.
My lord, some 2 days since I saw the prince and told him of these triumphs held at Oxford.
And what said the gallant?
His answer was he would unto the stews, and from the common creature pluck a glove, and wear it as a favor, and with that he would unhorse the lustiest challenger.
As dissolute as desperate. Yet through both I see some sparks of better hope, which elder days may happily bring forth. But who comes here?
Where is the king?
What means our cousin that he stares and looks so wildly?
God save your grace, I do beseech your majesty to have some conferencing with your grace alone.
Withdraw yourselves and leave us here alone. What is the matter with our cousin now?
Forever may my knees grow to the earth, my tongue cleave to my roof within my mouth, unless a pardon ere I rise or speak.
Intended or committed was this fault? If on the first, how heinous ere it be, to win thy after love I pardon thee.
Then give me leave, that I may turn the key, that no man enter till my tale be done.
Have thy desire.
My liege, beware. Look to thyself. Thou hast a traitor in thy presence there.
Villain, I'll make thee safe.
Stay thy revengeful hand, thou hast no cause to fear.
Open the door, secure foolhardy king. Shall I for love speak treason to thy face? Open the door, I will break it open.
What is the matter, uncle? Speak, recover breath. Tell us how near is danger that we may arm us to encounter it.
Peruse this writing here, and thou shalt know the reason that my haste forbids me show.
Remember as thou readst thy promised past, and do repent me, read not my name there. My heart is not confederate with my hand.
It was, villain, ere thy hand did set it down. I tore it from the traitor's bosom, king. Fear and not love begets his penitence. Forget to pity him, lest thy pity prove a serpent that will sting thee to the heart.
O heinous, strong, and bold conspiracy! O loyal father of a treacherous son! Thou sheer, immaculate, and silver fountain from whence this stream, through muddy passages, has had his current and defiled himself. Thy overflow of good converts to bad, and thy abundant goodness shall excuse this deadly blot and thy digressing son.
So shall my virtue be his vices bawd, and he shall spend mine honor with his shame. As thriftless sons, they're scraping father's gold. Mine honor lives when his dishonor dies, or my shamed life in his dishonor lies. Thou killedst me in his life, giving him breath. The traitor lives. The true man's put to death.
Oh, my liege, for heaven's sake, let me in. My liege.
What shrill voice suppliant makes this eager cry?
O woman in thine hand, great king, 'tis I. Speak with me, pity me, open the door. A beggar begs that never begged before.
Our scene is altered from a serious thing and now changed to the beggar and the king. My dangerous cousin, let your mother in. I know she's come to pray for your foul sin.
If thou do pardon, whosoever pray, more sins for this forgiveness prosper may. This festered joint cut off, the rest sound. This let alone will all the rest confound.
O king, believe not this hard-hearted man. Love, loving not itself, none other can.
Thou frantic woman, what dost thee make here? Shall thy old dogs once more traitor rear?
Oh, sweet York, be patient. Hear me, gentle liege.
Rise up, good aunt.
Oh, not yet.
Jackie, we can only hear you. We can't see you.
Wait a second, it's not clear.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Rise up, good aunt.
Oh, not yet. I thee beseech forever will I kneel upon my knees, and never see day that the happy sees, till thou give joy, until thou bid me joy by pardoning Rutland, my transgressing boy.
To my mother's prayers I bend my knee.
Against them both my true joints bended be.
Leads he in earnest? Look upon his face. His eyes do drop no tears. His prayers are in jest. His words come from his mouth, ours from our breasts. He prays but faintly and would be denied. We pray with heart and soul and all beside. His weary joints would gladly rise, I know. Our knees still kneel till the ground they grow. His prayers are full of false hypocrisy, ours of true zeal and deep integrity. Our prayers do outpray his, and let them have that mercy which true prayers ought to have.
Good aunt, stand up.
Nay, do not say stand up, but pardon first, and afterwards stand up. And if I were thy nurse, thy tongue to teach, pardon should be the very first word of thy speech. I never longed to hear a word till now. Say pardon, king. Let pity teach thee how. The word is short, but not so short as sweet. A word like pardon for a king's mouth so sweet.
Speak in French, king. Say pardon-moi.
Does thou teach pardon? Pardon to destroy? Oh, my sour husband, my hard-hearted lord, that sets the word itself against the word. Speak pardon as 'tis current in our land. The chopping French we do not understand. Thine eye begins to speak. Thy eye begins to speak. Set thy tongue there. Or in thy piteous heart plant thine ear, that hearing how our plants and prayers do pierce, pity may move thee pardon to rehearse.
Good aunt, stand up.
I do not suit to stand. Pardon is all the suit I have in hand.
I pardon him, as heaven shall pardon me.
Oh, heaven, bandage of a kneeling knee. Yet I am sick for fear. Speak it again. Twice saying pardon does not pardon and twang, but make one pardon strong.
I pardon him with all my heart.
A God on earth thou art.
But for our trusty brother-in-law, the abbot, with all the rest of that consorted crew, destruction straight shall dog them at the heels. Good uncle, help to order several powers to Oxford. And where'er these traitors are, they shall not live within this world, I swear, but I will have them, if I once know where. Uncle, farewell, and cousin, adieu. Your mother well hath prayed, and prove you true.
Oh, my old son, I pray heaven make thee new.
Didst thou not mark the king, what words he spake. Have I no friend will rid me of this living fear? Was it not so?
Those were his very words.
Have I no friend? Quoth he. He spake it twice and urged it twice together, did he not?
He did.
And speaking it, he wistly looked on me, as who should say, I would thou wert the man that would divorce this terror from my heart, meaning the king at Pomfret. Come, let's go. I am the king's friend, and I will rid his foe.
Act 5, Scene 5.
I have been studying how to compare this prison where I live unto the world. And for because the world is populous, and here is not a creature but myself, I cannot do it. Yet I'll hammer it out. My brain, I'll prove the female to my soul the father, and these two beget a generation of still breeding thoughts. And these same thoughts people this little world and humors like the people of this world, for no thought is contented. The better sort, as thoughts of things divine are intermixed with scruples, and do set the faith itself against the faith, as thus. Come, little ones, and then again it is as hard to come as for a camel to thread the postern of a needle's eye. Thoughts tending to ambition, they do plot unlikely wonders, how these vain, weak nails may tear a passage through the flinty ribs of this hard world, my ragged prison walls, and before they cannot die in their own pride, thoughts tending to content flatter themselves that they are not the first of fortune's slaves, nor shall not be the last. Like silly beggars who, sitting in the stocks, refuge their shame that many have and others must sit there. And in this thought, they find a kind of ease, bearing their own misfortune on the back of such as have before endured the like. Thus play I in one prison many people, and none contented. Sometimes am I king, then treason makes me wish myself a beggar, and so I am. Then crushing penury persuades me I was better when a king. Then am I king again, and by think that I am unkinged by Bolingbroke, and straight am nothing. But what ere I am, nor I, nor any man, that but man is, with nothing shall be pleased, till he be eased with being nothing. Music do I hear. Keep time. How sour sweet music is when time is broken, no proportion kept. So is it in the music of men's lives, and here have I the daintiness of ear to hear time broken, a disordered string. But for the concord of my state and time, had not an ear to hear my true time broke. I wasted time, and now doth time waste me, for now hath time made me his numbering clock. My thoughts are minutes, and with sighs they jar their watches on unto mine eyes. The outward watch were to my finger like a dial's point is pointing still in cleansing them from tears. Now, sir, the sound that tells what hour it is are clamorous groans that strike upon my heart, which is the bell. So sighs and tears and groans show minutes, hours, and times. But my time runs posting on, Bolingbroke's proud joy, while I stand fooling here, his jack of the clock. This music mads me. Let it sound no more. For though if it have hope madmen to their wits, in me it seems it will make wise men mad, yet blessing on his heart that gives it me, for 'tis a sign of love, and love to Richard is this strange brooch in this all-hating world.
Hail, royal prince.
Thanks, noble peer. The cheapest of us is 10 groats too dear. What art thou, and how comest thou hither, where no man ever comes but that sad dog that brings me food to make misfortune live?
It was a room of thy stable king, when thou wert king, who travelling towards York, with much ado at length have gotten leave to look at my son's royal master's face. Oh, how it burned my heart I beheld in London streets that day, on Barbary, that horse that thou so often hast betrayed, that horse that I so carefully have dressed.
Rode he on Barbary? Tell me, gentle friend, how went he under him?
So proud he is if he sings the ground.
So proud that Bolingbroke was on his back. That jade hath eat bread from my royal hand. This hand hath made him proud with clapping him. Would he not stumble? Would he not fall down? Since pride must have a fall and break the neck of that proud man that did usurp his back. Now forgive us, horse. Why do I rail on thee, since thou, created to be awed by men, was born to bear? I was not made a horse, and yet I bear a burden like an ass, spur-galled and tired by jouncing Bolingbroke.
Fellow, give place.
Please give place. Here is no longer stay.
If thou love me, 'tis time thou wert away.
What my tongue dares not, that my heart shall say.
My lord, will it please you to fall too?
Taste of it first, as thou wert wont to do.
My lord, I dare not. Sir Piers of Exton, who lately came from the king, commands the contrary.
The devil take Henry of Lancaster and thee. Patience is stale, and I am weary of it.
Help! Help! Help!
How now? What means death in this rude assault? Villain, thine own hand yields thy death's instrument. Go thou and fill another room in hell. That hand shall burn in never-quenching fire that staggers thus my person. Extant, thy fierce hand hath with the king's blood stained the king's own land. Mount, mount, my soul. Thy seat is up on high, whilst my gross flesh strikes downward here to die.
As full of valor as of royal blood, both have I spilt. Oh, were the deed were good. But now the devil that told me I did well says that this deed is chronicled in hell. His dead king to the living king I'll bear. Take hence the rest and give them burial here.
Act 5, Scene 6.
Kind Uncle York, the latest news we hear is that the rebels have consumed with fire our town of Cissister in Gloucestershire. But whether they be ta'en or slain, we hear not. Welcome, my lord. What is the news?
First, to thy sacred state wish I all happiness. The next news is, I have to London sent the heads of Salisbury, Spencer, Blunt and Kent. The manner of their taking may appear as large discoursed in this paper here.
We thank thee, gentle Percy, for thy pains, and to thy worth will add right worthy gains.
My lord, I have from Oxford sent to London the heads of Brockus and Sir Bennet Seeley, two of the dangerous consorted traitors that sought at Oxford thy dire overthrow.
Thy pains, Fitzwater, shall not be forgot. Right noble is thy merit, well I wot.
The grand conspirator, abbot of Westminster, with clog of conscience and sour melancholy, hath yielded up his body to the grave. But here is Carlyle living to abide thy kingly doom and sentence of his pride.
Carlyle, this is your doom. Choose out some secret place, some reverend room, more than thou hast, and wish it joy thy life, so as thou livest in peace, die free from strife. For though mine enemy thou hast ever been, high sparks of honor in thee have I seen.
Great king, within this coffin I present thy buried fear. Herein all breathless lies the mightiest of thy greatest enemies, Richard of Bordeaux, by me hither brought.
I thank thee not. For thou hast wrought a deed of slaughter with thy fatal hand upon my head and all this famous land.
From your own mouth, my lord, did I this deed.
They love not poison that to poison need, nor do I thee. Though I did wish him dead, I hate the murderer, love him murdered. The guilt of conscience take thou for thy labor, but neither my good word nor princely favor. With Cain go wander through the shade of night, and never show thy head by day nor light. Lords, I protest my soul is full of woe, that blood should sprinkle me to make me grow. Come, mourn with me, for that I do lament, and put on sullen black incontinent. I'll make a voyage to the Holy Land to wash this blood off from my guilty hand. March sadly after, grace my mourning here, in weeping after this untimely bier.
Yeah. Bravo, bravo, well done. Very well done. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm sorry I was like having to deliver mail and I missed lots of it, but what I did get to hear and see was really, really great. So
really was, man. Clinton, oh my goodness. You were
It's so hard to keep a straight face, Clinton, while you're doing all that. I'm just like, I'm the normal guy.
Under 3 hours.
Yeah.
This is a really well written play.
Well, I have to leave, so I'm going to say good night.
Good
night.
It was wonderful working with you. Good night.
Thank you for
Bye,
stepping in
Tony.
for that,
Nice
sir.
to see you.
In the gardener scene. Thanks for stepping in for that, Tony. You were great. Thanks.
Nice seeing you. Have nice.
Oh,
having
Jackie, you were
on.
wonderful. Yeah, it's kind of late.
Yeah, it is. Anybody got any other things they want to say about the play? Because we're still sort of live. If there's anything you want to say, Amelia, how about like playing your sister now? Since you just did Henry V, where you played Catherine of Valois, who was his sister,
Just covering all sides of the family.
The French and the English. Yeah, you know what? I wanted to know, and I looked up how many English kings have been deposed. And there were 2 after Richard II, and there were 4 before him. Although a couple of those regained the throne and then they died.
Does that include abdications?
Your audio is very staticky and choppy.
So anyway, what a play this is.
Well, I mean, the way this play presages Henry IV, Part 1, is pretty interesting if you really if you
Yeah,
study that.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
They're often done together because you do really see the development and the sort of things. But it is sort of interesting. I've found, like, reading it, that it's like that Richard, in the way it's written, that Richard kind of sort of abdicates himself, where Henry keeps saying, "I just want to be Duke of Lancaster here. I'm Duke of Lancaster." And it's like, oh, you want me to give up the crown then? You really want to get, I mean, I think that one of the things that's such a difficult thing to convey, that except that I've seen in productions, is where you have, like, lots of people there, that like Richard knows that, like, this is his way of having to talk to keep from.
And he's very smart, and he knows he has no power, but it's just heartbreaking. Yeah, it's he never comes out and says, Bolingbroke, I want to be king. He never ever says that. He lets circumstances do it for him.
Yeah, I mean, just having all the soldiers behind you and the other person has none, I basically just kind of let it happen.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that Mowbray was murdered, actually, by one of Richard's men afterwards, but that's not the case.
Right.
The history. No, he actually aligned more with Bolingbroke later to get rid of Richard. And then he died of the plague.
Well,
Lots of people back then.
was lurking around too, yeah.
Oh, wow, are you kidding me? Sure, it was the COVID. Yeah, it was big.
Well, I just said this a second ago, but I mean, this doesn't seem to be regarded as one of Shakespeare's greatest plays, but there's some really good writing.
This play is in my top three.
Especially
Even though I
Richard's
killed it.
speeches.
I think a lot of us regard it as one of his really, really great.
Yeah, I think this is my top three of all Shakespeare's plays. It's so tight. from start to finish.
Yeah.
The women's parts, even though they're small, the women's parts are decent in this.
Yeah, I mean that scene between Richard and the Queen is like all I ever want for like Shakespearean women. I feel like so often they just like kind of show up and they're like, I'm here, I'm your wife, and then they leave and that's it. Like I mean, I always think about what happened, like Paul was just saying, we just did Henry V, and I always, there's that bit at the end where he's like, anyways, and then Henry died shortly thereafter and the baby became king. And I always, having just played Catherine, I'm always like, well, like she ended up getting remarried, but like that must have sucked for her, having to say good, losing her husband.
They're
like
just
that.
they're such pawns. The women.
Yeah, and so this scene where they really get to like have this like very emotional moment together is such a treat. It's such a treat.
They make it like in Richard III, the Duchess and Margaret, where they have to mourn over the children and they have to kind of say goodbye. There's kind of these goodbyes. He's very good on these goodbye scenes where people are parting.
Suffolk and Margaret when they have to part. Oh my goodness. In Henry's VI part,
two.
But Jackie, that whole denouement bit with O'Merrill and York and Duchess of York, it's so skillful to me because there is a really comic element which you really need. It's kind of hilarious. Be gone, woman. Give me my boots. It's like a sitcom, but it's also kind of heartbreaking. Look what
that a father would go so against his son to have his son slaughtered.
It's like the American Civil War, the gray versus the blue. It's like, look, it's ripping families apart, so it's funny and sad,
Yeah, I mean, Bolingbroke obviously
sucks. I'll tell you that.
He has no idea what to do
so easily. I mean, they beheaded people in that time. They cut their heads off. I mean, the kind of death he would have if the king wasn't kind and if the mother didn't beg them. The fact that you send your son to slaughter is not a funny thing,
I think it's the one scene where Henry is disarmed. I think he's ready for anything, but he has no idea what to do in that scene with the Duke and Duchess kneeling in front of him, begging, kill him, don't kill him. I'm just like, okay, I'm not like, I wasn't prepared for this. I'm just gonna like kind of hit.
And he has to, and he's very, very ruthless. He has to be about future possible rebels that are looking to Maybe he really should kill Omer, you know? It's
And
like,
he never stops fighting. Henry IV
Right.
never stops fighting ever. He's always fighting civil wars until he dies.
None of them ever
never
stopped
feel safe.
fighting. None of them ever stopped fighting, and they're all so paranoid of each other. They all had all these secrets. I mean, God.
Well, you know, in both Henry IV Part 1 and in Part 2, there are speeches where Henry IV says to his son, Prince Hal, he talks about how he became king, what happened before he became king. He talks about how he regrets, how ruthlessly
Feels so guilty.
and in the Part 2, there's something where he tells Hal about how he regrets how ruthlessly he became king, and how Hal doesn't have to become king in a ruthless way because he's going to inherit it. So there's a lot in both those plays, those Henry IV plays, about Bolingbroke's past.
Yeah. It's all about
before he was king.
Politics.
And the foreshadowing is there. You know, here, of course, he mentions Hal briefly, doesn't say his name.
Oh, yeah, right. And then he mentions Hal in this play.
And I think in some ways, in that
Gone
speech,
off to the steam.
And he's the profligate son, even in this play.
and when he's talking, that speech that you're talking about when Henry's on his deathbed, Henry talking to Hal. I
In
think
Jerusalem.
to him, it makes it all worth it. It makes it all worth it to him, because the idea is, I didn't really get to enjoy being king, but it's worth it. I did all this so that you could be king.
Right.
And that you could, and of course, we know Henry V is the great hero. Henry V is the great hero, right? So it's like he built him up to be able to be the great hero.
And then he dies on the battlefield. Ugh.
And I like the Jerusalem thing that he brought the Jerusalem.
Oh, right. That's that
Richard
too,
II.
right? Because in the beginning of Henry IV Part 1, that's right in the very first scene where they're planning on going to Jerusalem, but then they can't because of all this trouble.
And he dies in the room in the palace called Jerusalem.
You got what he wants.
People dare to kill. You know, it's all about money and land. And
Yep.
and
And it still is today.
These stupid people vote in people, and then they serve these people. They starve to death while the king eats charlotte roosters and it's diamonds and pearls, and they honor him. You know,
I was going to say, didn't Putin get the approval of the clergy?
It's nuts, and it's always been nuts. I mean, there are stupid people and there are greedy people, and it seems to be two sides.
Yeah,
But
the
it's
Orthodox
clergy
Church
that always
is
had
right
something.
behind Putin, Michael. 100%.
But he had a bishop or something, a cardinal, supporting his war against Ukraine to go into Ukraine. The same way that
Israel and Ukraine.
Right, the same way that King Henry had the bishop and the cardinal telling him that it was his right to go into France.
He actually
What was
built
Richard's excuse?
They built a church, and the floor was made of the melted tanks from the Nazis in World War II in Russia, and he consecrated it. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Now, who told Richard that Ireland was supposedly his? Did he have an advisor in the clergy?
Probably. Yep. There's money, there's land, there's money.
That's why I love
Was there money in Ireland?
I love Dennis. If I saw what Dennis says to him about King Arthur, you mean you saw some woman in a swamp who ordained?
Yeah. Monty Python, yeah.
Getting a sword from a watery tart is no basis for government.
Right.
Coco.
Michael Palin, yeah.
Reading Shakespeare,
funny.
Shakespeare's plays make you realize that the world never changed. It's still the same.
No, there's been no progress. We have
Yeah.
plumbing and electricity in some of the world and wardrobes. Actually, there was supposedly a technological society at one time that could do a lot more than go on the internet and communicate. You know?
Paul, when were you going to put up the schedule for the new year?
Oh my God.
We always have some time off. January, February.
Okay.
A lot of
Yeah, well, we always do a sort of a 12th night one around 12th night. Well,
That's
or what you
that's-
will.
yeah, but
we go till like mid-December.
yeah, I guess I need to sort of figure out exactly how many readings we've done so far, because I think we're getting close to like 1,000, and I would like to sort of know that before I figure, because next year will be our 25th season of reading all of Shakespeare's plays every year. And nobody else has ever done that, and I mean, thank you all for joining in with that. So.
I'll play master again after the new year. I'm going to California for Christmas, but I'll think of
good
what I'd like to do and do something.
Revel in the warmth of the sunshine.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess I should start the live stream now, unless anybody has any final words on Richard II.
I'm going to go watch the news.
Oh, God.
Oh, must
Have
fun.
It's like doing Shakespeare.